Hello friends, welcome to Universe of Naruto X. If you love Naruto what if stories and anime explanations, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin today's story. This boy was Naruto Uzumaki. Since the people at the orphanage weren't very nice to him, he usually liked to be left alone. Sure, he could just jump around and make a lot of noise so that people would look at him, but there was this funny voice in the back of his head that told him not to. Granted, he couldn't really hear the voice very well, but he understood it was basically telling him drawing attention to himself would be a bad idea. It was pretty easy to avoid people because he could, in his own words, feel this weird feeling where people were. Some people felt really big, like the old man in the funny hat who was nice to him, or that man with the white spiky hair who sometimes followed him around. When he asked the old man in the funny hat about him, he said that the person was a friend of his parents. And while he couldn't take care of him, the man wanted to make sure he was safe. But everyone felt different in some way. There were other people who followed him. But once the man with the spiky white hair got to them, they either went away or disappeared. Thinking about it, there weren't any other people who had as big a feeling as those two in the entire village. And there was another person with a big feeling coming into the village. Line break. Kakashi Hatake couldn't help but smile as he saw his sensei's son scamper off into the foliage. The boy was just enough of both of them to be in his comfort level. If he was a carbon copy of either sensei or Kashina, Kakashi didn't think that he could look at him without feeling the overwhelming guilt that anchored him to the memorial stone on a daily basis. It would be like reminding himself Oh, he failed whenever he looked at the boy. Speaking of which, it was about that time of the day. Creating a shadow clone to watch over his sensei's legacy, the son of the White Fang Shan to the memorial stone. Line break. Today was an important day. An ambassador from Kumogaku was in Konoha to try to negotiate a peace treaty, but many of the upper-level shinobi, including the Hokage, were wary of him. Many of them still remembered the failed kidnapping of Azuaki Kasha many years ago, and they wouldn't put it past Kumo to try it again, especially with her orphaned son running around. Honestly, who else in Konoha has that bright red hair? Line break. Nighttime. Just outside the Hyuga compound, a figure darted out of the Hyuga compound carrying a black bag the size of a small child. Yusaka Hattori grinned, almost not believing how easy this was. While he was sent under the guise of negotiating a peace treaty, his true purpose was to kidnap the Hyuga Aries for Kumo's bloodline program. While many people would think it was sickening to subject innocent young girls to such a thing, Kumo didn't care as long as it got them more power. Pausing to catch his breath, Yusaka caught a glimpse of bright red hair just before it disappeared into the bushes. Line break. Naruto was having fun playing in the forest just outside of the Hyuga compound when he felt that new signature that came into the village today. Oddly enough, there was also a second much smaller signature with it. Deciding to check it out, he hoped the bushes until he saw the person carrying a child-sized black bag. Figuring that the second signature was coming from that bag, Naruto jumped off to warn the man with the spiky white hair. He was nearby. Line break. I can't let that brat warn the village's security. Yaka thought as he chased after our protagonist. Bursting into a clearing with an odd stone, the Kumo Jonin managed to grab the child by the hem of his shirt. Finally, having caught up to the kid, Yusaka finally got a good look at him and a feel of his chakra signature. Wait. Bright red hair. Massive chakra reserves for his age. Holy, this kid is the last Uzumaki. Grinning madly as he ignored the kid squirming, he thought about what kind of reward he would get for this. Like just about every other village, Kumo heard about the Kyuubi attack. After doing some digging, it was revealed Koza Uzumaki died, but there were rumors of a kid with bright red hair with massive chakra reserves running around after the Kyuubi attack. The civilians all thought it was the demon reborn, but the people at Kumo knew better. While rare, bright red hair wasn't limited to only Uzumakis, but all those with the Uzumaki special chakra had bright red hair. This is perfect. When I take you and the Hyuga girl back to Kumo for their bloodline program, I'll be set for life. Slamming the still squirming kid on the ground, Yusaka prepared to knock him out when he felt a prick on the back of his neck and then knew nothing but darkness. Line break. Kakashi sighed as he finished tying up the Kumo nin who tried to kidnap the Hyuga Aries and his sensei's son. While the nin would have probably been caught and killed by Hiashi, who was just now arriving to retrieve Hinata, the fact that he chased after Naruto meant three things. First, that Kumo knew Kasha had a son with the Uzumaki bloodline. 2. While the nin was chasing Naruto at the time, his main target was the Hyuga Aries. 3. And most importantly, Konoha now had a bargaining chip. If the nin had been killed, even though he was trying to kidnap the Aries, the treaty still meant that Kumo would still been able to demand reparations. However, since they had the man alive and caught him in the act of trying to kidnap the heirs of two clans, not that one of them knew that yet, the Re was nothing that Kumo could demand from a legal standpoint, and Konoha now held all the cards. Turning around and looking at the red-haired boy clinging to his leg, he slowly patted him on the head to calm him down. It's all right, nah, bad man can't hurt you now. While Na wasn't treated very well in the village, nobody actually ever raised a hand against him, fearing the wrath of those who cared deeply for him due to the fact that they had connected the dots and figured out Naro was Kusha and Manado's child. On that note, with the attempted kidnapping, one of the major clans of Konoha could probably demand to adopt him under the pretense of protecting him from future kidnappings. Kakashi knew for a fact that the Uchiha clan was trying to adopt him due to Kusha and Makoto being very close and Fugaku Aktu Ali being Manato's cousin twice removed, a fact very few people knew. The only reason Kakashi knew is because Fugaku actually approached him to try to get his support to adopt Naruto, feeling he owed his distant cousin at least that. Kakashi himself couldn't adopt Naruto because he was only 16 and was in Anu. He did give Fugaku his blessing even though it didn't really matter at the moment due to the civilian council trying to them at every turn. Okay, let's go to the old man now, Kakashi said, taking Naruto's hand. Ho, hold on. Naruto's voice came out sounding as if he hadn't used it in days, which was probably true considering how he was treated in the orphanage. Timidly walking over to the girl hiding behind who Na assumed was her father, he stuck his hand out. Hello, my name is Uzumaki Na. What's yours? Blushing from behind her father's legs, Hinata stuck her hand out and grabbed Naruto's offered hand. My name is Hyuga Hinata. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you to Hinata, Na said with a small smile before he walked over to Kakashi. Okay, Kakashi Hitaki Kakashi said the man with a smile. Most of his face was covered by a mask and his headband, so it came out as his eye looking like an upside down U. Okay, Kakashi Nissan, I'm ready to go, Nissan. Kakashi asked with a raised eyebrow. Yeah, the old man says, you're always looking after me. Like an older brother would. Okay, then let's go. Audo grabbing Naruto's hand and the tied-up Kumo shinobi. Both Naruto and Kakashi disappeared in a Shunshin line break. In the Hoage's tower, Sarutobi Hiazen sighed as he remembered how he was appointed Hokage again. After the QB attack and his successor's death, he retook the mantle to help stabilize the leaf. Trying to honor the Yandaim's last wish for his son to be seen as a hero, he told the villagers his status as a gentry. The reaction was split down the middle. While the civilians called for his head, many of the more experienced ninjas remembered about Koza and her status as a gentry and coming to the conclusion that during childbirth, Kasha died and the beast had to be sealed into her son. The bright red hair helped many realize that when it was released, recognizing the sacrifice Naruto's family was making, even if they didn't know who the dad was, the Jonin and clan heads were quick to rein in any and all bias towards Na. Since then, there have been many attempts to adopt Naruto, but the civilian council was being petty and denied any and all requests due to that Naruto was technically a civilian. The Sandaime still remembered when he first brought Naruto to the council and his one-time rival, Danzo, suggested that he be turned over to him and made a weapon. All the shinobi clan heads stonewalled him and poured enough killing intent towards the civilian council that they could barely control their bowels, much less open their mouths. Thinking about his old teammate, Hirozen couldn't help but feel disappointed. Danzo had become such a short-sighted fool in his old age. Believing that the village was the metaphorical king, he would do anything to anyone in the name of the village. He had forgotten Hashiyama and Tobarama Sensei's reason for building the village in the first place to create an environment where children wouldn't have to go out into the battlefields and parents wouldn't have to visit said children's shallow graves. The third fire shadow was broken from his musings by a knock on the door. With a tired come in, He looked up at the door and saw Kakashi holding a tied-up Nin with a sharp look in his eye. He gestured for him to close the door and explain. Around 8:30 at night, Na came across this Kuman holding a small child-sized bag outside of the Hyuga compound. Knowing he couldn't beat him by himself, Naruto came to find me, but was seen by the Kuman, who then proceeded to give chase. Naruto was able to reach the memorial stone before he was overtaken. Hiding just before he arrived, I heard the Kumanin's intentions of taking both the Hyuga Aries and Naruto back to Kumo for their bloodline program. I then subdued him as Hiashi-sama arrived. I let him take the Hyuga Aries back to their compound while I brought Naruto to my apartment. After that, I came here to report to you, sir. Serbi sighed as he took out his pipe and lit it with a small Kaiden jutsu. Take him to Rebeki and call the council for a meeting. Honestly, it wasn't surprising. Once you've seen one warmonger, you've seen them all. And Serbi had to deal with one on an almost daily basis. Still, it was somewhat disappointing that Kumo played down to their expectations. Every Konoha Anbu was deployed, creating an impregnable barrier around Konoha. No one was getting out without them knowing. At least he could use this. Now they had a bargaining chip against Kumo, and he could use this to strongarm the council into letting a clan adopt Na. Speaking of adoption, he pulled out a stack of papers out from his desk drawer. After the QB attack and the matter of Naruto's adoption came up, Uchiha Fugaku was the first one to offer. Granted, the civilian council immediately shot any and all attempts down, but Fugaku was stubborn and refused to give up. Every other week, he received a request from the Uchiha clan to adopt one Uzumaki Naruto, but the civilian council immediately shot it down every time. At first, he was suspicious, seeing as how it was an Uchi, not that anyone besides himself and the QB knew that was behind the QB attack, but after some digging, he found the truth about Manado and Fugaku's relationship and decided to give him his support. Smirking, he began to fill out the paperwork to adopt Wanazumaki Naruto into the Uchiha clan. He had the civilian council's number this time. Line break council chambers. So it looks like Kumo really did try to kidnap the brat. That was the voice of the John and Commander Na Shikaku. He had predicted that since Kumo had already tried to kidnap Naruto's mom, they would probably try to kidnap him too if given a chance. Yep, but I hear he wasn't captured by the Anui have around the village, said a cheerful, heavy-set man named Akamaki Chosa. Apparently Kakashi was the one who took him down. We have him in interrogation and torture right now, added Yamanaka Inanoiki, the last of the first generation Ino Shika Cho. The door to the council chambers opened to reveal the Hokage and his two teammates, Midokado Homura and Udatain Kaharu. Settling at their seats at the end of the council table, the Sandaime cleared his throat. We are here today to discuss two things. First is Kumo's attempted kidnapping of two clan heirs and the adoption of Uzumaki Naruto. I thought we already made our point clear. That demon isn't going to be adopted, said Cliché Council Member 1. That's right, and there is nothing you can do about it, screeched a pink-haired banter. I mean Cliché Council Member 2. That's where you're wrong, said Serbi with a grin that was positively victorious. But I will get to that. At 900 page M, a Kumo nin was apprehended trying to kidnap the heirs of two clans, the near-extinct Uzumaki clan. Insert flinch for Cliché Civilian Council and the Hyuga clan. Because of this, I feel it is appropriate to leave him in the tender mercies of a Biki. Line break. In a deep dark torture cell, Yusaka Hattori was waking up. He felt his arms and legs restrained, and he couldn't see or feel his chakra. Hello, Yusaka. Would you like to play a game? Oh, thank God. For a second, I thought they gave me to that sadist Morino Abeki. I swear that guy gets his jollies off of torturing people. Yaka's blindfold was then removed to reveal the grinning face of Morino Abiki. No ooh line break in the council chambers. Ooh. Was heard all the way from the int department. Yes. Well, as I was saying, because of the negligence of the civilian council, one of our bloodlines was almost stolen. Therefore, I am forbidding the civilian council from interfering in any matters related to the Uzumaki Iramaki Na. What? You can't do this, said Cliché Civilian Council Member Number 3 as they were escorted out of the room by Anbu. Yes, we can. Due to your bigotry, You spit on the legacy of Usuzu and in the process almost lost Konoha, a powerful bloodline, and our gentry. While you might want to get rid of the demon, remember in Kumo's hands the demon might come back to exact vengeance. Homie said in a stoic tone, when Kumo learns that we have detained one of their head, John and they will be out for blood. What I want are ideas that end in our benefit without war. Sarutobi said to bring the conversation back on track. You cannot be serious, said Danzo is the one-eyed Waramon. Mungerad for war. They are obviously in the wrong here. And since this is Kumo we are talking about, they won't let it go unless we give them what they want or put their balls in a vice. Taking a deep breath, the Sandaime rubbed his forehead. I know, Danzo, I know, I do have an idea that will, in your own words, put their balls in a vice, but I want to hear the others' suggestion so we don't have to resort to that. Surprised that Shirobi was still capable of thinking like that, Danzo simply nodded and stepped back. Some ideas were dribbled around, but it seemed no one was able to agree to a realistic solution. Some wanted to simply execute the Kumnin, while others wanted to release him as a show of peace. However, in the end, it seemed that Shikaku lived up to his position as John and Commander and took control of the situation. Hokage-sama, if I may. Yes, Shikaku-san, what is it? What do you plan to do if Kumo doesn't accede to our demands? I think it would be best if we had an accurate idea of how much of a trump card we have on them. Sighing, Serbi lit his pipe and took a long drag before he blew out the smoke. The man we captured is, as I said, a Kumo Jonin, but what I hadn't mentioned yet is that he is one of their head Jonin. Right now he is down in having very piece of information in his brain being extracted by a Biki and an assistant. As it is, we have access to all of Kumo's dirty dealings, so to speak. Every record of every kidnapping, failed or successful. Knowing Kumo and how hungrily they amass power, we could probably convince both Iowa and Mizu to go to war with them. With Suna and us, that would be 4 of the 5 great nations all attacking one place. They would be completely crushed. However, that vacuum of power would lead to the balance of the nations destabilizing. Everyone would be trying to get as much as they could from the remains, and it would probably begin the next great war. Quote, silence echoed in the chambers. Right now, they had the opportunity to destroy one of the 5 great nations, but it would be the start of the 4th Great Shinobi War. No, causing the destruction of a nation for a simple kidnapping attempt would be too much. That is why I want to find some other solution. What we know is that Kumo won't give us their gentry or give us any of their bloodlines. What else can we ask for? Jutsus, resources, someone give me something. We could ask for training for our gentry. Danzo said. Silence once again greeted the room. Not because of the words spoken, but because of the speaker within Konoha. Danzo was a well-known warmonger. The fact was that he and Serbi often bumped heads because of their respective views on what was best for the village. Danzo wanted war and Serbi wanted peace. The fact that Danzo was suggesting a viable alternative that didn't end in war was enough to shock everyone into silence. I know that most of you think of me as nothing but a diluted fool wanting war for no reason. But hear me out. At the moment, we are weak from the QB attack, but we have never had a gentry of the QB actually use its power. However, during the last war, rumors sprung up about Kumo's perfect host. If we were able to harness the raw power of the QB, then Konoha's position as the strongest ninja village would be cemented once again. Very well, I believe that is a good idea. At the moment, the peace treaty, even if it was just a distraction, is technically making Kumo our ally if we decide to ratify it. However, Naruto will not start until he believes he is ready and reaches at least Shunin rank. All agreed. Agreed. Chorus the room. Now on to the second order of business. As I said, now that the civilian council is no longer involved in decisions pertaining to Naruto, Kunhi can now be adopted without them stonewalling us. Since Fugaku has been the most vocal about his wishes to adopt Naruto into the Uchiha clan, I will let him. Unless there is any objections, this meeting is abjured. I need to prepare for when Kumo learns about their head John and being detained. Line break. Kumoguk. Damn it. Followed by the sound of a desk smashing through a wall was the screen in the Rakage's office. It was supposed to be a simple kidnapping, but the damned ambassador overstepped his boundaries and got caught. Sighing of the Yandere, Rakage rubbed his forehead. Sarutobi held all the cards in this case, and he could only send another ambassador to try to negotiate his head. Jaijin's release. Line break. In Kakashi's apartment, one red-haired, blue-eyed child slept in a dreamless sleep. The events of the night finally catching up to him. This was the scene Kakashi happened upon coming back to his apartment. Seeing his sensei's son so innocent and naive, it made him want to put each and every civilian council member's head on a pike. He had come to tell Na about his new family, but he could always tell him when it was finalized. Tucking Naruto in, Kakashi decided to go to the living room and catch up on his reading. Line break. When the Kumo ambassador came to Konoha, he was simply given a scroll and told to be on his way. When he asked what was in the scroll, he was told that it was Konoha's demands and what they would do if said demands weren't met. Figuring it somewhat odd, he decided to look in the scroll. Paling rapidly, the ambassador made tracks back to Kumo. Line break. Kumoguk. At least they aren't asking for anything too drastic. Aside in relief, with the dirt Konoha now had on Kumo, they would be able to set the rest of the great shinobi nations on 'em like wolves on a piece of meat. They really screwed the pooch on this one. Trying to kidnap not only the last of the Uzumaki clan, but also the Genturki of the Kyuubi. Kumo was lucky that Konoha didn't decide to just shoot first and questions later. On the bright side, the alliance with Konoha would be smoothed over if Kumo agreed to this. It was a deal of mutual benefit for both sides, but Konoha was still holding a metaphorical gun to Kumo's head in this one. Grabbing a blank scroll, the Yandere Rakkage wrote his response and prepared to send the scroll to Konoha. They might be able to get the Uzumaki bloodline just yet. Line break. Konohage. Shirotoi Hirozen let the pipe drop out of his hand as he read Kumo's response to Konoha's demands. They had agreed, of course, but had suggested something to further cement the relationship and eliminate any bad blood between their nations. An arranged marriage, but not just any arranged marriage. An arranged marriage between Niugito the Genturki of the Nibino Nekuma and Uzumaki Naruto the Gentu Rki of the Kyubino no Yoko. While it might end up giving Kumo the Uzumaki bloodline, it would almost permanently tie together Kumo and Konoha. Genchuriki were inherently more loyal to each other due to the fact that just about every Genchuri grew up hated and scorned. If Yugito and Naruto ended up growing close enough and Kumo tried to break off the alliance, Yugito would stay with Naruto rather than go back to Kumo, especially considering that she had no real connection to the cage as most Genchuriki did to secure their loyalty. The question is, however, if Yugo and Naruto would truly bond. Yugo was 7 years old, a fresh genin out of Kumo's academy, even though she had been training with the Nibi's chakra her whole life. Na was 3 years old and not even aware of his burden. Sighing, Hisan decided that once Na entered the academy, he would tell him of Kurama the QB. The academy would color Naruto's opinion of the old fox, even though the attack years ago wasn't really his fault. Not that anyone but him knew that. Not to mention how Naruto's parents probably asked Kurama to take care of their son. The reason the old fox hadn't made contact yet was probably due to how pumping enough of its chakra to forge a link to the boy would have killed him. All things considered, this is all right for now. I hope Naruto can forgive me when he learns about this. A 6-year-old Naruto was running though the Uchiha compound. It had been 3 years since the Kumo incident and his subsequent adoption into the Uchiha clan. After crying tears of joy, he asked why the Uchiha clan had decided to adopt him. His new mom, Uchi Makoto, told him that they were close to his parents. Even though he wanted to ask about his parents, that odd burning in the back of his head told him not to. When he was first brought back, he immediately butted heads with Uchiha Sasuke, his elder by a few months. Even though he got along well with his other older brother, Uchiha Itachi, Naruto had come out of his shell the last couple years around people he knew due to his new family's love and affection. Makoto practically showered him in it. And while he and Sasuke butted heads, Sasuke still acknowledged him as part of the family, calling him Otudo, not just to annoy Na. Itachi did care. It was just hidden under the stoicism. Fugaku was at first stoic like Itachi, but over the years, he adopted Naruto's approach to people and smiled more with his family. Though for some odd reason, Makoto would always tell him to try to stay in the Uchiha compound. When he asked why, she would just say it was because she wanted to be close to her baby and then proceed to smother him in her cleavage until he passed out. Itachi was, for lack of a better term, near emotionless, just like his father. So, You would think Naruto and Itachi wouldn't get along very well. It wasn't until he met Itachi's best friend, Uchiha Shiui, that he understood why. After Naruto had opened up to Shiui, Shiui and Naruto hit it off immediately, and only weeks after meeting him began to call him Shiu Onion. The rest, as they say, is history. With Shiu's love of using his hypnotic genjutsu to screw with the members of his clan and Naruto's newfound penchant for pranks, the two began terrorizing the Uchiha clan and Konoha in general. Speaking of pranks, he had just pulled off one of his best pranks yet. He had snuck into the houses of each Uchiha who was in the Uchiha police force over the night and hid the Uchiha police force spare uniforms, cloths, and undergarments, leaving only one uniform available for each of them to go in. Get back here, you little brat. That was covered in bright pink paint with orange accents. Chuckling to himself, Na jumped off the roof of the house he was on. Forming a chakra chain, he used it to hook himself onto a tree branch and swung into the forest. It was around a year ago Naruto had discovered his ability to form solid objects out of chakra. He had finally worked up the courage to ask about his clan and his mother. The voice in the back of his head, he didn't tell anyone about it. They would think he was crazy. Told him not to ask about his father just yet, but since Makoto had said she and his mother were very close, he decided to ask her about his clan and his mom. Apparently, he was part of this clan that was very good at Fujutsu and had a bloodline that had at least one F3 traits. The first of these traits was increased longevity and larger chakra reserves. Everyone born with Uzumaki blood in their veins had these. An Uzumaki who was 40 years old would look 20. In fact, the longest any recorded Uzumaki had lived was almost 300 years. The second was the ability to sense the people around them and their chakra levels. This was called Mind's Eye of the Kagura, and Naruto had been passively using this trait in his early years to avoid other people. The last and rarest trait was the ability to shape their chakra into physical forms for combat or just convent uses. Mito, the Shodai's wife and Koza Azuaki, had this trait. Mito's taking the form of a dragon while Kush's taking the form of chains. When Naruto tried to do this with his chakra, he found he could shape his chakra into just about any form. But the strength and stability depended on his focus and how much chakra he put into the construct. When he had gotten into an argument with Sasuke about which of their bloodlines would let them be a more awesome shinobi, even though Sasuke hadn't unlocked his sharing yet, Itachi had simply bonked both of them on the head and told them it wasn't the quality of the tools that determined a shinobi's worth, but the shinobi himself. After finding out about his clan, Na immediately began training to unlock his chakra. It took him several weeks, but he had eventually unlocked it and had begun practicing making shapes out of his chakra. When he would get tired from practicing with his bloodline, he would read books about Fu and Jutsu. Soon enough, Makoto had found out and expressly forbidden him from practicing seals, even though she was more than happy to let him read about them. She had even given him a book about sealing. But for some reason, she was adamant about him reading about a section that described Jinturki. Jinchuriki were people who had these things called buju sealed inside of them and were able to access the power of previously mentioned buju. Apparently, a buju attacked Konoha 6 years ago, but the Yandai Hokage used a jutsu to defeat it at the cost of his life, but Naruto wasn't sure exactly how one was supposed to kill a sentient mass of chakra. Dropping into a clearing in the forest with a roll, Naruto stopped for a second to focus his mind's eye of the Kagura. Sensing that the police force had apparently given up and gone back to look for their hidden cloths, Naruto laid down eagle spread on the soft grass and closed his eyes to think about the thing that had been bugging him for the last week. The QB attack. There were so many inconsistencies in the stories the adults told the children. It was like some bad plot in a shonen manga. For one, the QB just appeared in the center of Konoha for no reason. If it had some from somewhere, then Konoha would have been able to see it ahead of time and prepare. But no, the QB just popped up in the center of Konoha and began killing people. That made no sense. The only way for the QB to just appear inside of Konoha was if someone summoned it there, something he highly doubted with the amount of hate Konoha had towards the QB itself. Also, since after the Battle of Uchiha Meta vs Senju Hashiyama, the QB was sealed inside Azuaki Mito. Now that he actually thought about it, his mother's last name was Azuaki. And when Mito died, since there was no report of the Kyuubi rampaging, so that meant it was probably sealed inside another Genturki who was kept secret. Probably so that people wouldn't try to assassinate that person. Wait, seals. Genturi. People who had Beiju sealed inside them. Uzumaki Mito, the Genturki of the Q. His mother Kusha. Uzumaki Kusha. The Uzumaki bloodline of more powerful chakra. The date of the Q. Attack. October 10th. His birthday. The Yandere was a seal master. And everything fell into place. The glares, the hatred, why people treated him even worse on the Kyuubi festival, why Makoto wanted him to stay inside the Uchiha compound. It all made sense. When Mido had died, the Kyuubi was sealed inside his mother, Uzumaki Kusha. At some point, Kusha had gotten pregnant with him. During childbirth, she must have died, causing the Kyuubi to break free. The Yandere had come to seal the Kyuubi, but he couldn't just seal the Kyuubi into anyone. The Kyuubi's chakra was extremely powerful, and whoever he sealed the Kyuubi into would have been roasted alive by the seal due to the Kyuubi's potent chakra, unless their chakra was powerful enough to counteract it. Powerful like the chakra of those from the Uzumaki clan. Wait, if he was the sea Genturiki, then the Sandaime would have told him right. His family would have told him right. They wouldn't have kept him in the dark about something this big. That's right, thought Naruto as he panicked and lifted his shirt to see if there was a seal and channeled chakra. Tuan and Ka-chan would have told me when I asked them why people were always mean to me. Itachi and Shiwini would have told me when I asked them what happened to the Kyuubi. Surby Jiggy would have told me when I asked why I always had to hide during my birthdays so the mobs wouldn't hurt me. They wouldn't have lied, too. All thoughts were derailed as a spiral seal surrounded by 8 prongs appeared on his stomach. Line break. Hyuga compound. Hyuga Hinata was someone considered a failure by her clan. Even though Hashi Ojasan and Neji Nisan always encouraged her to do her best, she still never matched up to the standards her Otis-sama let for her. Sighing, she thought of that red-haired boy that she had met 4 years ago during the Kumo incident. Yumaki Naruto, or rather Uchiha Uzumaki Na. After the incident, he had been adopted into the Uchiha clan. Hinata wanted to see him again, seeing as how if it wasn't for him, she would have been kidnapped by that Kumo nin. But whenever she asked her, Usu-sama would just say, "We don't associate with Has." He had become especially cold to her after her Ka-san had died. Maybe she would see Na in the academy next year. Line break. Forest clearing. Na didn't know how long he sat there in the forest clearing. All he knew was that he wanted to be alone. Genturiki, the power of human sacrifice. He had been lied to his whole life. The reason everyone at the orphanage was always mean to him. The reason he was always glared at outside of the Uchiha compound. They all knew but never told him. The most powerful weapon of the 5 great shinobi villages. He didn't know what to think anymore. In the book he read, it said that Genturki were often related to the cage to ensure loyalty to the village. There was no way the Sandaime was his father. Grandfather maybe, but father no. But that wouldn't explain where he got his blue eyes from. Was that the only reason his family was kind to him to ensure he was loyal to the village? Due to Na being caught up in his angst spiral, he didn't notice the person approaching him from the woods. Line break. Uchiha Shiui was always considered an oddball within his clan. Where most of his clan was stoic and expressionless, he was more outspoken and when not on duty, wore his emotions on his sleeves. Sure, he was a bit of a pervert, but every man is. These traits caused him to bond with Na once he had finally met the boy a few months after he joined the clan. While initially Naruto was distant to him, as he was with everyone he wasn't familiar with, Naruto gradually warmed up to Shush. Yui and the two gained an unbreakable bond. When Shiui had introduced Naruto to pranks, it had originally been a ploy to get the kid to steal some girl's underwear he had taken to it like a fish to water, and the two terrorized Konoha on a daily basis, even though Naruto seemed to have something on his mind lately. While Shiui was walking through the woods, he spotted a head of spiky red hair in a clearing in the woods. Speaking of the devil, and he shall appear looking at the sun, he noticed it was getting pretty late. Makoto would throw a fit if Na wasn't home by curfew. So, he decided it would be a good idea to get Na home. "Hey there, little guy. How's it going?" Shui said as he walked into the forest clearing with a grin. Fine was Naruto's answer. Blue eyes hidden under his spiky bangs. That set of warning bells in Shiyu's head. When he first met Na, the kid was damn near mute, always trying to make himself appear as unnoticeable as possible. Naruto had warmed up to Shiui, and over the years he had learned that Naruto was very vocal about his emotions to people he cared about. If he was upset about something, then he would be bouncing all over the place and in general raising hell. That he wasn't doing that and instead trying to bottle his emotions up meant that it was something big. Sitting down next to Na, Shiui waited until Naruto was ready to talk. Being a genjutsu specialist, even though Shiui was known for his shun, he had a decent idea of how the mind works. Trying to pressure Naruto to tell him what happened would just alienate him. He had to wait until Naruto was ready to talk. Sure enough, after a couple minutes, why didn't anyone tell me about the cube eye? Putting an arm around Na, Shiui drew the boy into a one-armed hug, so he was leaning on him. So, you finally figured it out, huh? The Sandame's law forbade people from talking about Naruto's status as a Genchuri. But it didn't stop someone from comforting him once he finally found out. Well, there's a law that the Sandame passed after the QB attack that actually stops people from telling you under penalty of death. But still, why was it kept a secret from me when everyone else knew? Na asked, not understanding why the Sandame passed that law. The same reason that Makoto Abasan tried to keep you in the Uchiha district as much as possible. She and the Sandame wanted you to have as close to a normal childhood as you could, even with your burden. Don't think for a second any of us kept it from you out of spite. We just didn't want to see you grow up so fast, Shiui said as he rubbed Naruto's head. Oh. I guess I understand, Shiu-nin. That must be why Makoto Kasan wanted me to read that section about Genchuriki in the Fujin Jutsu book so I wouldn't be confused and think I was the QB. Na said as his eyelids drooped. That's right, Naruto-chan, me, Fugaku, Ojasan, Makoto Abasan, Itachi, all of us, even though our first loyalty should be to the village and our clan care more for you and Sasuke-chan more than anything in the world. Never forget that, Shiui said with a gentle smile. When light snoring responded to him, he lifted Naruto onto his back and set off for the Uchiha clan head house. Line break. Hokage Tower. Shirotoi Hirozen couldn't help but smile as he watched his surrogate grandson bond with his self-appointed brother. Still, he mused. The fact that he was able to figure out the events behind the QB attack and deduce that he was its Genchuri when all the civilians are still in their own little fantasy worlds is astounding. The boy definitely had Monado's intelligence. Manado was considered a once-in-a-lifetime prodigy for multiple reasons. One of the most unnerving reasons was how he had a way of obsessing about things until he figured them out. His horizon had come from him trying to figure out the mechanics behind the summoning jutsu and his amazing ability of seeing underneath the underneath. It was simply impossible to hide things from the former Yandere. He had figured out Kusha was the Genchuri of the QB only months after having known her. Granted, it took a year for him to finally figure out she was a girl and almost a decade to figure out she was in love with him. Moving on. Long story short, it seemed Namikaze men were surprisingly observant when it came to things no one else would see. But because of this, when something was obvious, it would go right over their head. Sighing, Serbi figured that Naruto if have to meet the QB sooner or later, it would better for it to be sooner if he wanted to. With that in mind, he told his secretary to call someone who he thought would be perfect for the job. Line break. Uchiha Itachi was a prodigy. This was something he was complimented about on almost a daily basis. Graduating the top of his class at age 7, mastering the sharing at age 8, passing the Chunin exams at age 10, and enrolling in Anbu half a year later. Many were already saying he was on his way to Anbu captain. Yet almost nobody truly understood him. That small list included his little brothers, his best friend Shiui, his mother, and more recently his father. Itachi let out a small smile at the thought of his adopted younger brother, Uchiha Uzumaki Naruto. The boy had this odd ability to have people just gravitate towards him. Where once his father was cold, distant, and almost ignored Sasuke after living with Naruto for a year, he began to change. He became more emotional, spent more time with his family and no longer ignored Sasuke or doted on Itachi. Sasuke, who was once filled with jealousy towards Itachi for his status as a prodigy and how everyone would always focus on Itachi, mellowed out. With a new younger brother to spend time with, he no longer felt as neglected. Even Itachi had been changing slowly. While he was still as expressionless as a rock, he now voiced his opinion more often. Naruto's constant pestering caused him to spend almost all his time not training or in missions with Sasuke and him, and he found himself caring even more for his little brothers. There was nothing he valued more than Naruto and Sasuke's safety, not even the village. When he brought this up with his mother, she told him that he had his father's charisma and his mother's ability to just pull people into his loop, no matter how hard they tried to swim against the current. A few months ago, when he had entered Abu, he had been informed of Naruto's status as a Genchuri. When he confronted the Sandaime about why Na didn't know, the wizened old man told him that it was kept from him so he would have some measure of a normal childhood and he would be informed once he entered the academy. While Naruto's parents may have turned him into a Genchuri, Kirby knew they would want to personally destroy Konoha if Naruto had been turned into an emotionless weapon like Danzo wanted. Itachi had long since figured out Naruto's parentage. Naruto's parentage was simply just one question to his mother away due to how she, Fugaku, and Itachi would always meet with Manado and Koza. Hearing that he had a summons from the Hokage, Itachi idly wondered what kind of game he would play with Naruto and Sasuke tomorrow. Line break. Hoage's tower. Hearing a knock at the door, Kirby beckoned for whoever it was to come in. The door opened to reveal the emotionless face of Uchiha Itachi. You called Hokage-sama. Yes. Itachi, sit down. Taking his pipe from his desk, he lit it with a small Kaiden jutsu. A few moments passed in awkward silence. I wanted to tell you Naruto has figured out his status as a Genchuri. Aside from a slight widening of the eyes, Itachi had no outward reaction. I see. But that is not the reason you called for me, is it? Sighing wistfully, the Sandaime let out a rueful chuckle as he made a signal for the Ambu in the room to leave and turned on the silencing seal. You truly are a prodigy, Itachi, but first to understand this order, you first know the truth of the night of the QB attack. The truth of the night of the QB attack. Turning around, Kirby nodded with a serious look in his eyes. Itachi, what I am about to tell you is to be classified as a rank SS secret. If it were not for your rising ranks within Anbu and how close Naruto holds you to his own heart, you would not be hearing this. Do you understand? Do not betray my trust. Nodding once, Itachi focused and made sure to commit the following conversation to his memory. I'm sure you're aware of the battle between Ma and Hashiyama where Matera tried to use the Q-Bai to gain an edge but inevitably lost, causing the Q-Bai to be sealed into Uzumaki Mito. Itachi nodded. There was no Uchiha who didn't know about that battle. However, something you don't know is that the Q-Bai requested to be sealed into Mido. What indeed? Due to the Q-Bai being controlled by Ma's sharing, it requested to be sealed into Uzumaki Mido so it could not be controlled again. The Q-Bai is actually quite an intelligent creature. If that is the case, then why did the Q-Bai attack Konoha? While the Q-Bai did attack Konoha, it wasn't of its own will. Eyes narrowing, Itachi immediately reached a conclusion. You believe in Uchiha to be the cause of the Q-Bai attack, he stated. Hold on now, Itachi-kun, let me finish. The fact that the Q-Bai can be controlled by a sharing is a fact now only known between 4 people. Now you, me, the Q-Bai, and the perpetrator of the attack. However, there have been rumors flying about along those lines. Konoha is starting to believe the Uchiha clan as a whole to be responsible for the attack. That is Absu. Itachi began to protest before he was cut off by the Sanding. I know Fugaku and Makoto were very close to Manado and Kusha. I believe alone was responsible. I was simply telling you the general consensus around the village. Don't be so hasty. Itachi, my apologies, Hokage-sama, it is fine. I would have reacted the same way. However, I would ask you to keep an eye on your clan for me in case you may find out the identity of this mysterious Uchiha. Very well, Hokage-sama. But how do you know it was an Uchiha? I will get to that to Itachi-kun. Now, when Midito died, the Q-Bai had to be sealed into a new host. That new host was Uzumaki Kusha, Naruto's mother. Yes. Now, there is one time when a female Genturki's seal weakens enough for their buju to be released during childbirth. And when Naruto was born, the person attacked Koza, ripped the Q-Bai from the seal and used it to attack Konoha. If I may ask, Hokage-sama, Yes. Why do you think it was an Uchiha behind the attack and not someone else? Quote. Before the Yandere teleported the QB to seal it away, he had just enough time to hand me a scroll. And said the scroll, he asked me to take care of Na and gave me a general idea of what happened. But there was one word that stuck out. Sharing finished Sarutobi as he let the word seemingly hang in the air. I see. May I receive my orders now? Hokage-sama. Yes. I want you to use your sharing to enter Naruto's mindscape so he can meet with the QB. What? That got a reaction out of Itachi. A slack-jawed, eyes-wide-open reaction. Yes. The QB's previous container Kasha was someone who it respected and the feeling was mutual. It wouldn't surprise me if Kosina and Minato had asked the QB to look after Naruto before the deaths. If they did, it would be better for Naruto to meet the QB and establish a connection, Aoi explained as he took a few puffs of his pipe. I understand Hokage-sama, but what if Na doesn't want to? Asked Itachi, having regained his composure. Then try to explain to him that the QB is an intelligent creature and the attack 6 years ago wasn't of its own will. If he still doesn't want to, then don't force him, but make sure he knows that he will eventually have to meet it. I understand. Hokage-sama. May I be excused? Yes. Line break. Uchi clan head residence. When Itachi got home, it was about 11 at night. Itachi-chan. That was the voice of Uchiha Makoto, a young woman with long black hair and the Uchiha trademark cold black eyes. Have you seen Naruto? He's way past curfew. A voice came from behind Itachi. Hey, I got him right here. Turning around, Itachi was met with the smiling face of Uchiha Shisui with a mop of red hair resting on his shoulder. A Naruto-chan, thank you, Shuiken. He knows he shouldn't stay out this late. Makoto said, taking Naruto to his bedroom. Ka-san, do you know where Tuzan is? I'd like to talk to the both of you. Shui, you should stay here too. Itachi asked. Fugaku is at a clan meeting. Just let me finish tucking in Naruto-chan and I'll be right out. Makoto's voice came from the hallway. So, what's up, Itachi? Shui asked as Makoto came back from the hallway. Deciding to be blunt, Itachi just let it out there. Naruto knows about the QB. While Makoto's eyes widened with a visible expression of shock on her face, Shui showed no outward reaction. Shui? Itachi asked, confused as to why Shui hadn't reacted. I know already. When I came across Naruto-chan on my way back here, he was still anchored to the spot, depressed because he felt that no one trusted him enough to tell him. When I talked to him about it, he was really panicking. He accepted my explanation and forgave you guys for it. He's got a really big heart, Shui said with a smile on his face. How did he find out? Makoto asked, planning on talking to Naruto in the morning when he woke up. Hey, the Brad might have Kushirabasan's red hair and bloodline, but he has Manado Oiz-sama's looks and smarts. He managed to figure it out all by himself. It's a good thing you gave him that book on seals, boss-san, because he said otherwise he might have thought he was the QB himself, Shui said with a smirk. Makoto smiled at that. I was worried that might have happened. While Kusha-chan didn't have that problem, she told me that she was really scared about becoming its gentry. I had hoped that if Na understood that the demon was sealed inside the person, it would make it easier for him once he found out when he and Sasuke entered the academy. So, how is the unrest in the clan? Itachi asked, broaching a topic no one wanted to ask. It's been getting worse. Some of the clan members are even saying we should release the QB. On Konoha, Makoto said with a frown, no, I'd personally massacre them all before I let them harm Na. Itachi sneered with an unusual display of emotion. And boo or not, he was still a 12-year-old kid. Calm down, Itachi-chan. There is no way Fukakyun and I will let it go that far, but we may have to go to the Hokage soon. Makoto said, we can't let the Uchiha clan stage a coup d'etat. Shui elaborated. Konoha is already weakened from the QB attack. If the Uchiha clan were to rebel, it would be the killing stroke. Even if the Uchiha succeeded, Konoha wouldn't be able to defend herself from her enemies. The rest of the major nations would fall on us like a pack of wolves, and it would start the Fourth Great Shinobi World War. Silence filled the halls for a few moments before Itachi spoke up. We should all get some sleep. I'll make sure to talk to Na tomorrow in the afternoon. And with that, The three Uchiha went to bed. Line break. Naruto's mindscape. Opening his eyes, Naruto glanced around. Wherever he was, it looked like he was in a giant sewerway, and there was water up to his ankles, but oddly enough, it didn't feel wet. Closer inspection of the walls showed that there were really big pipes that had this odd dark blue glow, and that there were smaller pipes connecting to the big pipes with an angry red glow. Looking around, he noticed that there were only two ways to go forward or back. Since Na had no idea where he was, he decided to just put one foot in front of another. Line break. A few minutes later, eventually Na came to a giant prison with a ceiling tag in the middle. This must be where the QB is. That means I'm in my mindscape. Why is inside my head a sewer? Maybe because you have a dirty little mind, boomed a voice from behind the bars. Hey, I'm not a pervert, Na shouted indignantly at the voice. Give yourself a few years. When puberty hits, it hits hard, was the voice's sarcastic reply. So, you're the QB. I expected you to be more, evil and all. Release me from my prison. Welp, said Na, feeling odd for having a conversation with what he read was a sentient mass of hate. And I expected you to be taller, Chibian. Oi. I just haven't hit my growth spurt yet, Na shouted. His height was always a sore point with him. While he wasn't exactly short per se, due to Makoto making sure he ate more than just ramen, he was still a few inches shorter than Sasuke. So whenever someone commented on his height, he always lost his temper. Well, I found my new nickname for you. So how did I get in here? And how do I get out? Na grumbled looking around. It kind of sucked to be stuck in your own mind when your mind was a sewer. You in here because I called you here, and to get out you just, I guess thinking yourself out would be the best way to describe it. Oh. So why did you call me down here? Na asked. Even though the QB was supposed to be evil, it seemed as though the giant fox man chakra thing was somewhat civil. Even though Na couldn't see past the darkness, he had the distinct impression that the QB's eye was twitching. I take offense to being called a giant fox man chakra thing. No. How did we are in your mind? How do you think? Anyway, the reason I called you here is I wanted to get a look at my godson. What? You're my godfather? Na yelled with wide eyes. Technically, I'm your godmother. Your godfather is the white-haired pervert who gave you your frog wallet for your 6th birthday. You mean Oroijigi is my godfather? Oroijigi was the name Naruto gave Jiraiya. While he couldn't visit due to maintaining his spy network, Naruto, as much as he would have liked, he made sure to show up on his birthdays. He and Sasuke would usually spend time with the man at Hot Springs. Even though neither of them understood why he was always looking through that hole and giggling until they took a look themselves. Since that day, whatever title Na and Sasuke gave Jiraiya always had an arrow in front of it. Wait, if he's my godfather, how come I only see him a few times each year? Na asked with a frown. He is an important man to Konohibun. I'm pretty sure that while I was sealed in your mother, I only saw him around 3 or 4 times a year. And even then, it was Kusha going to meet him and your father. So, any other questions? After this, I would like to form a mental link. It will hurt like crazy, but you won't have to come into your mind to talk to me anymore. Why did you attack Konoha? And who is my father? Yes, the million-dollar questions. I can't tell you who your father is just yet. He had a lot of enemies, and people finding out you were his son is a bad idea, but I can tell you the events of October 10th. Some shifting was heard from behind the darkness. Na assumed that since the QB was getting comfortable, it was going to be a long story, so he just sat down on the floor. Long story short, an Uchiha attacked your mother while she was giving birth to you. Took control of me, used me to attack Konoha, and then I was sealed inside you. Naruto somehow face fell while he was sitting, but then one part stuck out to him. Wait, you said and was the one who attacked you and my mom. Yes, but do not take one's actions as an action of the group. There is a reason why I am just now contacting you and haven't told you to be wary of your family. Naruto would swear he heard the Buju mutter something about and saying tanukis, but he couldn't be sure. Wait, what happened to my dad? I can't tell you exactly how, but he loved you and died to protect you. It was technically true. Manado did love Na, and he died to give Na the power to protect himself in the future. Even though Na didn't know who his father was, it still made him feel warm inside to know that his father loved him. Okay, so is there anything else? No, I'll talk to you tomorrow, Shippuden. Now get ready for me to forge the link. Mumbling, not a chibi. Na closed his eyes as a burning sensation appeared in the back of his head and intensified until he lost conscious. Line break. The next morning, yawning as he opened his eyes, Naruto sat up and stretched. Looking around, he noticed that he was back in his room in the Uchiha clan head house. Shizu-Nisan must have brought me back last night. Na mused as he put on a bathrobe. What an odd dream I had last night. I guess finding out I was the cub Jinchuriki affected me more than I thought. That was no dream, Shippuden. So, I'm guessing the link is connected, Na said as he stepped into the bathroom and began brushing his teeth. Yep, you now have a voice in your head. Congratulations. You're officially crazy. Me? Really? Just a me? Yeah. I mean, it's only one voice, and it's pretty cool to be able to talk to someone who was supposed to be thousands of years old, you know. Na replied to the QB as he turned on the shower. I suppose that's true. Manado Kusha, forgive me. Your son has become weird, but most people would be freaked out by having a voice in their head. It's not really that bad. It sort of reminds me that you'll always be there for me in a way, and I know you're real, so it's not like I have an imaginary friend or something. Yes, I suppose the fact that I am real would made you feel less insane. Turning off the shower, Naruto dried himself off, got dressed, and headed to the dining room for breakfast. Line break. Dining room. Makoto was lost in her thoughts as she prepared breakfast for her family. When Fugaku got home last night, he told her that the unrest was getting really bad and they would have a rebellion on their hands in a year, maybe even less. The elder council members were already trying to pressure Fugaku to let them use Naruto as a bargaining chip, something he absolutely refused to do. Sighing, she let her thoughts drift to what would happen if the council refused to back down and the Hokage caught wind of what they were trying to do. While he might try to find a peaceful solution, at first he was the Hokage and had to do what was necessary for the village. The Uchiha clan would have to be wiped out completely. There could be no witnesses, no way to link it back to the village. It would have to be a complete slaughter. Otherwise, the other clans would fear being wiped out and rebel. When Fugaku got back last night and she told him Na knew of the QB, the look her husband had on his face was absolutely murderous. When he demanded she tell him who told Na, she simply smiled, shook her head, and said that Naruto-chan is truly his father's son. Understanding that Na found out on his own, Fugaku couldn't help but let a prideful smile show on his face. While Na might not have been Fugaku's son biologically, he loved him just as much as he loved Sasuke and Itachi. A huge contrast to the man 3 years ago who only focused on grooming Itachi to be the perfect clan head and ignored Sasuke. Over the last 3 years, Naruto had truly changed their family for the better, bringing them all closer together. A glance over at Fugaku, who was sitting at the dining table waiting for Naruto to finish showering as Sasuke was still asleep, showed that Fugaku's face showed no nervousness. Even though Shiui had told her that Naruto had understood why they kept the knowledge of the QB from him, Makoto still felt that she should apologize. Even though Fugaku had only responded with the trademark Uchiha HN, she knew he felt the same on the inside. As Naruto came into the dining room, spiky red hair bouncing, Makoto finished setting the table and ushered him over. Sasuke was still sleeping and Itachi was out buying Pocky. So now was the perfect time for their talk. Hey Na-chan, can we talk about you know it? You mean the QB, said Na with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Well, yes, your father and I just want to say we are sorry and we hope you understand why we kept it from you. Makoto said, gesturing at Fugaku, who just grunted, even though he did look sorry. It's okay, Kasanu-san. I understand. Shizu-Nisan explained it to me, Na said with a big smile before he went back to eating. Makoto smiled and shared a look with Fugaku. That was just like Na. He never let anything get him down and always bounced back after he got an explanation. A little while later, Sasuke came in with his duck-ass heads, followed by Itachi with a big bag of Pocky, and the rest of breakfast was in comfortable silence. Line break. Na and Sasuke's training grounds. The sounds of two small children fighting echoed throughout the training grounds. Even though they would enter the academy next year, Naruto and Sasuke still liked to train and fight with each other. Of course, they made sure not to hurt each other too badly. Most of the time, jumping over a sweep kick, Sasuke jumped into a snap kick that hit Naruto in the jaw. Using the momentum from that, Naruto spun and landed a kick into Sasuke's gut and knocked him back into a tree. Ha! It's my win this time, Sasuke. Na said while he nursed his jaw. That's only because you've been training in your clan's taijutsu longer than I have. The Uzumaki taijutsu style, the swirling fists, was a style that made use of grappling so that the Uzumaki clan members using it could apply seals and spinning attacks that use the momentum of your opponent against them. You know, 2-chan and Oni-chan wouldn't teach the interceptor fist until I unlocked my Sharingan. If I had my sharing, I would have won, Sasuke mumbled, wiping some spit from his chit. Na hit really hard. No, I would have still won. Naruto stated in a matter-of-fact tone. The only reason I don't use my bloodline is because you don't have yours yet, and since I've had more experience with my bloodline, I would win. Na said, sticking his tongue out at Sasuke. Growling, Sasuke stood up and tackled Naruto to the ground where they began their fight again. Line break. Itachi let a smile cross his face as he watched his two younger brothers spar. Even though Naruto liked to say he always won, Sasuke actually won about half the time. Na just liked to gloat. Na had really taken the news of the Kyuubi in stride after Shiui had sat him down and explained everything to him. Though Itachi did wonder how Naruto would react to meeting the Kyuubi, chuckling as he saw Naruto tar Sasuke against a tree with his chakra chains, Itachi decided he would do anything to protect those innocents. After all, these peaceful days were numbered. Line break. After Sasuke had gotten Naruto to unchain him from the tree and the two had decided to take a break, we found our future protagonists lounging about eating the lunch Makoto made for them. Hey Sasuke, I'm the gentry of the QB. Na said subtly was never his strong suit. Cool. Can I have your tomatoes? Sasuke said without batting an eyelash. Ah. Sure. Naruto said in a daze as he handed Sasuke his portion of the tomatoes Makoto prepared for them. Wait, I tell you, I have the monster that almost destroyed Konoha 6 years ago, sealed in my gut, and all you have to say is cool. Na shouted in disbelief. Now you know how I felt by your lack of reaction to me. Quiet, fuzzball. I'm talking to my brother here. Yeah. What do you expect me to say? Sasuke said with a perfectly straight face. I don't know, be more surprised or something, Naruto said, clutching his head. I stopped being surprised by you when you somehow laced Itachi's pocky with laxatives and got away with it. Deadpants Sasuke, but street, how did you know it was me? Who else has the balls to touch Itachi's pocky? When Shishi tried that one time, Itachi almost castrated him. Sasuke said with a shiver. Nobody knew why, but Itachi loved pocky more than Naruto loved ramen. He went through 6 boxes daily and protected it with the fervor of a dying man. It was once said that when Itachi was still a gen, he had wiped out an entire bandit camp just because they made him spill his pocky onto the ground. Na sat there for a few moments in silence, only broken by the sound of Sasuke eating his bento. You should eat your bento before it spoils, Sasuke said as he finished his and began stretching. Na began mechanically eating his bento. Why aren't you surprised? Why don't you care? Slowly, Sasuke turned his eyes until they met his adopted little brother's. Because it doesn't matter what. So what if you hold the QB? That doesn't change the fact that for the last 3 years you lived with me. It doesn't change the fact that we trained together on a daily basis. It doesn't change the fact that we grew up together. It doesn't change the fact that me-chan, Chuzin, Khan, and Shisu Nikan all care about you and consider you part of our family. Do you want to know what it changes? Nothing. It changes nothing, nah, Sasuke said with conviction in his voice as he finished his stretching and began some chakra control exercises. If anything, I'm only sad that you didn't feel you could tell me this earlier. Hey, to be honest, I only found out yesterday myself, Naruto said with a smile in contrast to the tears streaming down his face. You always were a little dense, Sasuke said with a smirk. There were no words exchanged until they had arrived home later that day. Line break. Later that day, Uchiha clan head house dinner time. So, how was everyone's day? It was fun. Me and Sasuke went out training again. Oh. Did you two like the bentos I made for you? Henyaka-san, they were great. Another riveting conversation at the Uchiha dinner table. As they were finishing their meal, Itachi told Na that he wanted to talk to him in his room. Line break. Itachi's room. Na, the Sandaime wants me to help you contact the QB. It's okay. I already talked to it last night. I understand if you don't wait. What? Yeah. The night after I figured out I was the gentry of the QB. It pulled me into my mindscape so it could meet me face to face and form a mental link. I see. Do you mind if I go into your mindscape just to inspect the seal? Sure. But I'm going to go ahead and warn you. It's a sewer for some reason. Nah. If Shiui ever asks you to steal some girl's underwear again, say no. Okay. The Uchiha clan head house. This is getting ridiculous. We can't even let Naruto-chan outside anymore on the off chance that the other clan members might try to kidnap him. Makoto said with a frown. We really will have to go to Sandaime-sama soon. Fugaku said with a frown. The clan elders are too caught up in their own pride as bigotry to realize that the reason the Uchiha have been getting more and more alienated is because of our pride not allowing us to admit that no one since Uchiha Madara H has been able to control the Q. The clan has been getting more and more restless. Soon they might come at Makoto and me just to remove any opposition to the coup. Fugaku finished before he turned to Itachi, who had been oddly silent. Itachi, I know you've been acting as a double agent for the Sanding. I honestly couldn't care less. If anything, I'm proud of you that you're so willing to protect your home, and if we can't find a solution in time, promise me that you will take care of Naruto and Sasuke. Fugaku said with a knowing but kind look in his eyes. Itachi was stunned, silent. The elders were trying to get him to murder his whole clan except for his little brothers. Fugaku was not a dumb man. He had probably figured out that if they were to stop the Uchiha clan before the coup, everyone would have to die, guilty and innocent alike. Otherwise, the other clans would become afraid that the same thing could happen to them and rebel. He also knew that as Anbu Captain Itachi reported to the Hokage first and furthermost. Fugaku had basically just told his son, if you have to kill us, I understand. Just make sure to take care of your siblings. I understand, Tan, Itachi said as he shakily walked to his room. He managed to close the door before the tears came. Line break, Naruto's room. Naruto couldn't let out a sigh as he swung a chakra construct katana around going through some basic sword katas. The Uchihas had been getting more and more restless. There were even rumors of a coup floating around. About 2 weeks ago, Makoto had asked Naruto to try to stay in the house as much as he could. He understood why, with the Uchiha talking about rebelling, the QB would be a powerful weapon to have and he wouldn't put it above the usually proud and arrogant Uchihas to try to kidnap him. Yes, you finally understand why I don't like humans in general very much. You like my family and I don't you? Na replied as he used his chakra to clear his throat, make a giant blunted shuriken and went through some throwing motions. I will admit your family doesn't fit the mold that most humans come from, both your adopted and biological. However, they are more the exceptions that prove the rule rather than the rule. I don't get it. How can an exception prove a rule? Naruto said confused. The QB always used these weird sayings that made no sense. It is a way of saying that one exception doesn't make a generally broad rule false. The fact that your family is nice compared to the rest of the clan just says that the rest of the clan is considered mean. In the same way, because your family is made of good people just means compared to your family, the rest of humanity seems bad. The QB explained, the kid was smart, but he was still 8 years old. Oh. Is humanity really that bad? Naruto, have I ever told you of the origins of the tailed beasts and the true meaning behind the word Jinchuriki? No. Why? Well, it all wait. Naruto, focus your mind's eye. Sensing the urgency in the QB's voice, Naruto focused his mind's eye of the Kagura. When he did, he immediately focused on 6 signatures, one of whom was Shiui. It seemed like he was fighting some people, and he was losing. Jumping to his feet, Naruto dispelled his giant shuriken and ran to the spot where he last felt Shiui line break. In the forest, Shiui grunted as he deflected another kana on his blade, reflecting on how he got into this situation. When talks of a coup got really bad, he went to his commander, Danzo. Danzo's reaction was, Of course, to massacre the clan. Shiui expected that. What Shiui didn't expect was for Danzo to try to steal his eyes. He had barely made it out of that hornet's nest, and now he still had 5 wasps to deal with. Dodging a thrust by one of said wasps, Shu ducked underneath and to the side, opening the root nin's stomach with his tonto. Grabbing the dying nin's body, he spun and used it as a shield to block a barrage of shuriken to his left. Using the body as a cover, Shiui shunched body flicker behind another root operative and severed his head from his neck. Ducking under a swing meant to behead him, Shiui lashed out with a snap kick, knocking the blank-masked root back and through his tonto, nailing the root in the forehead. Shiui took 2 kana from his holster as the second to last root fell upon him. Tip less tonto swinging. Ducking underneath the slash, Shiui lashed out with his kanai only for the root to jump back. Senses screaming at Shiui turned around but wasn't fast enough to block the punch that knocked him to the ground. Dazed Shiui could only faintly hear one of the men telling the other to take his eyes. One of the root walked over to him before he ducked as a giant blue thin-bladed shuriken, think the kind Obido use, passed over him. Seeing a chance as the other root turned to look for their mysterious attacker, Shiui lashed out with a kanai and cut the closest root's throat. He then shunchened behind him and jackhammered him into the ground. Shiui then knelt down and put his knee on the root's neck and watched him passively as he choked to death. Looking up, Shiui let his face soften as he saw Naruto run over with red pupils. Probably channeled some of the Q's chakra so he could have enough strength to throw that big shuriken. Shiui mused. Shiui led out and oof as Naruto's body attacked him. Shiui-Nisan, are you alright? I was training and I sensed that you were fighting and that you weren't doing good, so I came to help. And chuckling, Shiui patted Naruto's head to calm him down. Yeah, calm down. I'm alright. Come on, let's get you home. You know that you're not supposed to be out of the house. Line break. Uchiha clan head house. On the way back, Naruto fell asleep due to this being the first time he ever used the Q's chakra. After putting Naruto in his bed, Shiui went to the living room where he knew that Makoto, Fugaku, and Itachi were waiting. So, anything? Fugaku asked. No, he is still giving us the same deal. Everyone except Sasuke-chan, Naruto-chan, and the person who does the deed dies. Hell, the bastard even tried to take my eyes. Probably would have succeeded to if Na hadn't come at the last second. So, we are right back at square one, Shiui said with a frown as he ran his hand through his hair. At this rate, it looks like we will have to take Danzo's option. I overheard some other clan members talking about trying to kidnap Naruto-kun so they could get control over the Q. I have a crow following him, but we are running out of time. I know, Itachi. I know. As the 4 of them headed to the clan meeting, so deep in their thoughts, they didn't notice a shadow sneak into the house as they left. Line break. Na wasn't sure what was happening. One moment he was sleeping in his room and then the next he was bound and blindfolded. Na, don't move. Don't let them know that you're awake. Calming himself down, Na focused his thoughts inward again. Okay, do you know what's going on? Na, the people who kidnapped you want to take control of me and destroy Konoha. What? How do you know? I can sense the negative emotions of those around us. What do you want to do? I don't know. What can we do? If these guys get you, then Konoha would be destroyed. No one else in Konoha has chakra strong enough for you to be sealed again. What do we do? How far are you willing to go? What? How far are you willing to go to protect your family? You might not be a shinobi yet, but shinobi stands for those that endure. You want to be a shinobi? Then tell me, how much would you endure to protect your family? Closing his eyes, Naruto thought about his family. These past 4 years had been the happiest of his life. Where he was once in hell, his new family rescued him. They brought him in, clothed him, fed him, loved him. If these people did what they had planned, then Chuzan, Khan, Sasuke, Naito, Shiui-Nisan, and Itachi-Nisan, who all refused to take part in the cube data, would definitely be killed. Remembering the man that he killed to protect Shiui-Nisan, his conviction hardened. To protect those that he held precious, to protect those peaceful days, he would do anything. I'll endure anything. What can you do? There is not much I can do from within the seal. But your body is not completely accustomed to my chakra just yet. In order to get into your mindscape, They would have to use their sharing. Copy we. If I focus enough of my chakra in your eyes, I could probably get your eyeballs to melt. They then may try to break the seal by killing you. But if so, I can just die with you and it would take me some years to reform. Then do it. Steel yourself, nah. It will hurt. Throughout the whole process, Na didn't even cry out once. Line break. Shisui and Itachi were leaving the clan meeting when they heard a crow from the skies. Looking at each other, they shunted in the direction the CA came from. Line break. Uchiha Satsuna was your typical power-hungry Uchiha. Even though he didn't unlock his sharing until he was almost 20, he still had achieved the Threetomo state. Over the past few years, as Konoha subtly oppressed, the Uchiha he was in the same opinion as almost all the clan, that they should rebel and take what was rightfully theirs in Konoha. To that end, he recommended kidnapping the cub Jinchuriki and unleashing the QB on Konoha. When he and 15 other Uchiha had snuck into the clan head's house and grabbed the brat, everything had seemed like it was going according to plan. But once they got to their hideout, everything went downhill. When they had taken off the Jinchuriki's blindfold, they had found out the brat had somehow got his own eyes to melt. Then when they were planning on killing him to break the seal, everything went to hell. A vengeful Itachi and Shiwi had then fallen upon him like two starving wolves on a piece of meat. They were all ordinary clan ninja, a mostly Chunin and a few genin. They stood no chance against the enraged Ambu captain and his best friend. Everyone was killed in a matter of seconds. Satsuna himself falling to a kanai in the back of the head. Line break. Na couldn't see what was going on, but when they had removed his blindfold, he had heard several cries of rage. When he had heard someone recommend that they kill him, he heard the swish of a sword and a thump from a body hitting the floor. 10 seconds. Na couldn't see it, but that was all the time the enraged Ambu captain and his best friend needed to slaughter the entire room. Hello W. Who's there? Na said, understandably scared because he couldn't see anything. Na, what did they do to you? A voice that Na identified as Shiyu said. I'll stay here with Na. Shui, go to Danzo. I didn't want to do it, but this has gone too far. I won't let my clan harm my family or his village anymore. A stoic voice said, even though you could hear the signs of barely restrained rage within it. Hold on, Itachi. If we do that, then all the Uchiha will probably have to die, including your parents. What? Na cried out. No, Itachi-nisan, you can't. There has to be another way. I'm afraid not, Na. If the Uchiha clan is put down before the initial strike is made, then it will scare the other clan heads into rebelling, which will lead to a civil war. They have to be completely wiped out and someone would need to take the blame so that they couldn't trace back the order to Konoha. Shisu, I'll give Naro my eyes and then no, Itachi, I already unlocked the Mangekyou kaleidoscope. The only way to obtain it isn't killing your best friend. I'll give Narukan my eyes. Meanwhile, you create a shadow clone and have it bring Sasuke-chan here so we can tell him what's going on. We promised we wouldn't hide anything from them after the QB. Then afterwards, I will use my Koto Amatsukami, distinguished heavenly gods, to seal his memory until he unlocks his Mangekyou. And I'll also tell him how to unlock it without killing the person closest to you. Hyubi, if you can hear me, I would ask you to seal Naruto's memory. Give me some sign if you understand and can do it. Shiui said in an uncharacteristically calm voice. What? No, you can't do that, Nisan. No, please. Was all Na was able to get out before he felt a small pinch on the back of his neck. As Narad lost consciousness, he was able to still hear Itachi and Shiyu's last words. When you are ready to start training with the Mangek, you go to the Naka Shrine. In the main hall beneath the 7th tatami mat, on the far right is the secret meeting place of the Uchiha. In there is a tablet containing the clan's secrets and can only be deciphered with the sharing. Beware one who calls himself Moa, as I believe it is him who attacked your parents on the night you were born. Goodbye, Naruto-kun. Remember, no matter what, I will always love you. We can do it, Naruto-chan. We can do it because we all care for you. We might not be able to protect your innocence anymore, but we can at least make sure you and Sasuke-chan make it through this. Shinobi are people who are willing to endure anything. Naruto-chan, endure for the greater good. Endure for peace. Endure for those who we care about because we all love you and care about you. That is why Itachi can endure exile. Why Fugaku Ojasan, Makoto Bachin and I can endure even death because we love you. Line break. So, you finally decided to do what you had to do to protect the leaf, said Danzo. Yes, but I come with a warning, Itachi said with a sharing enhanced glare. Oh. I would believe you're not in much of a position to threaten me. Itachi lowered his head as his bangs covered his eyes. If you touch Sasuke or Naruto, Itachi raised his head to reveal his Mangekyou, a three-bladed star blazing with power. I will leak information from Konoha to other villages and will personally make sure Konoha burns by my own hands. Line break. Na was later delivered to the hospital, but no one claimed to be able to remember who it was. He then spent the next month in a coma. During that month, the night that would be known as the infamous Uchiha massacre would occur. After Na recovered and was discharged from the hospital, he immediately went to the top of the Yandame's head on the Hokage monument. His red hair had grown while he was unconscious, though it was still super spiky, and many people would even say it had darkened to an almost blood red . As he thought about the massacre, he felt odd, almost as though he had already known about it before he was even told. When he had heard everyone had died by Itachi's hand, he felt as though he had already known that, but had been reminded. Distracted by his thoughts, Naruto didn't notice his eyes change from blood red with 3 Thomas to a 4-point star marred by 4 red lines and finally changed to a miniature pupil with 6 black concentric circles and an unearly ice blue glow. Line break. Uchiha Sasuke was confused. Confused to why he had a voice in his head telling him to keep his sharing active for 3 days straight. Confused as to why everyone in his clan was killed. Confused as to why Itachi had been the one who had done it. Confused as to why Itachi had shed a single tear as he left the village he once loved after Sasuke had attacked him with his newly active sharing, and confused as to the feeling of understanding he felt when he thought about Itachi killing his clan. Right now he was looking for his younger brother Na. He had been told that Na left the hospital almost an hour ago. Sasuke wanted to break down to yell and scream at the unfair world, but he couldn't. Not while Naruto still needed him. Sighing, Sasuke noted that one of the things Naruto would do when he was depressed back when he was first adopted was go to the top of the Hokage monument and sit on the Yandame's head. Activating his sharing, Sasuke was just able to make out a blob of red hair on top of one of the spikes on the Yandame's hair. Line break. The demon has finally shown its true colors. We have to kill it before it gets the other clans. The demon cannot be allowed another family to ruin. We should take those stolen sharing right out of his eyes. The Professor Serbi Herzen rubbed his head as he listened to the civilian council's bickering. With the Uchiha incident, they thought they finally had a reason to execute Na, even though Sarutoi had repeatedly told them that it was Itachi who slaughtered his clan. Thinking that this meeting would take hours, Serbi took out his pipe enough and promptly dropped it when someone from the civilian council silenced the rest of them. Ikyaku Chuki was the owner of an extremely popular ramen stand in Konoha. Said stand was extremely popular due to how the Yandai Hokage and his lover used to go there before their untimely deaths. With the death of the Yandai Hokage, Ramen Ikyaku received an abnormally large amount of customers each year, as if to honor the dead Kage. Because of this, Tuki was one of the richest merchants in the village and had eventually earned a seat on the civilian council. Years ago, when our Yandi died to defeat the Kyuubi, many of us felt a great void in our hearts as he was loved by all of us. When we had heard that the Kyuubi had been sealed into an infant, many of us used him as our scapegoat. All the rage we felt for the Kyuubi, all the sadness we felt from the loss of so many loved ones, we all pinned on the shoulders of this poor child. Just so we could feel some measure of payback towards the beast that devastated our homes. Mistreated for 3 years in the orphanage, this poor boy eventually found happiness in family. Even as he was accepted by them, all of us, we still held on to our grudge so steadfast, so stubbornly, and alienated his family from the village. Now that family is gone, slaughtered by one of the people said boy loved and trusted more than anything in the world. However, instead of trying to comfort him, we are once again trying to place the blame of a tragedy on this poor boy's shoulders once again. Have we truly fallen so low? Getting up, Tuki walked to the door. I, for one, have never been more ashamed to call myself a citizen of Konoha. The sound of the door slamming shut echoed throughout the council chambers. Line break. Na wasn't sure how long he had been sitting there just staring blankly at the village. At some point, his eyes had reverted back to their sharing form. He noted that it was pretty late in the afternoon as he heard some steps coming from behind him. Sasuke had just sat down next to him and the two stared at the village in silence. Kasen told me about you getting Shiyu's sharing, Sasuke said. When Naruto didn't respond, Sasuke continued. You know, Khan and Tuzan edited their wills the night before the massacre. Naruto had no response other than to move his eyes to look at Sasuke. Then, do you think they knew it was going to happen? Sasuke just sighed and shook his head. I couldn't say. The only person who could answer that question is Itachi. What do we do? Standing up, Sasuke put his hands on his hips. Right now, we need to get some food in our stomachs and go to sleep. I mean, what do we do about Itachi? We get strong enough to take him down and get our answers. I think Itachi didn't do this of his own will and someone forced him to do it, Sasuke said with narrowed eyes. A few moments passed in silence. Then I think we should hide our strength once we get into the academy, Na said, a spark once again coming into his eyes. Why? Sasuke said, confused. Na got up, the gears in his mind accelerating. Think about it. Why are we the only ones left? Because Itachi doesn't think we are a threat. We should keep it that way. Stay in the academy for the 4 years. Na started pacing, a hand on his chin. On the other hand, we have to consider the possibility that it's our lives that Itachi was protecting. What do you mean? Sasuke said with a raised eyebrow. Na might be dense, but there was almost nothing that you could hide from him when he really wanted to know. It's simple. Someone blackmailed Itachi into killing the clan with our lives. Someone with more power than Itachi. Or someone high enough in the village structure to order our deaths blackmailed Itachi into killing his clan. And had he not, we would have died. Granted, it may just be a theory, but we should hide our strengths just to be on the safe side. Na elaborated, his sharing seeming almost to flame with emotion. I think it may be that before he left, Itachi was crying. How much do you think we should hide? Sasuke asked. One of you should be dead last and the other should be the rookie of the year. Those two are always paired together with the highest scoring kunoichi. The QB helpfully interjected. Thanks, Q-chan. Q-chan. One of us needs to be the dead last and the other rookie of the year. Those two are always placed together on a team. So, who's going to be dead last? Sasuke said with a raised eyebrow. He had gotten used to Naruto spacing out and talking to the QB over the years. I think I should be the one to do it. The council already doesn't like me because of the QB. This is just going to make my reputation even worse in their eyes. If the demon seems to be getting too strong, then they might decide to do something about it. I'll pretend to be the Dobi. Let them have a false sense of security, Na said, standing beside Sasuke. Then maybe hide that we don't hate Itachi too. That seemed like one of the blackmailer's objectives. Naruto just nodded, eyes forward. Sasuke looked over the horizon where a red dawn was beginning to form and turned on his sharing almost as if to challenge the sky. We will find the truth. We already know the flaws in this genjutsu. It's just a matter of getting strong enough to break out of it. We will bring Itachi back, and if we can't, we will go to him. He's our family and I won't let him go when there's even a chance he may come back to us, Na said, sharing spinning with conviction. Sasuke nodded, remembering the kind older brother who would do anything for his sake. As the two boys stared forward, Shaguns blazing, they would always look back and remember that day as the day their Helicon days were over, that they decided there was nothing more important than family, not even the village. Grumbling as the first rays of sunlight hit his face, a 12-year-old Naruto Uchiha opened his eyes to reveal a three-toe sharing copy wheel eye. Getting up, he went to the bathroom and started the shower. As he waited for the water to heat up, he looked at himself in the mirror, closing his eyes and stopping the flow of chakra he had been feeding them. A force of habit he picked up over the last 5 years. He opened them to reveal an ice blue-colored Renegon Samara eye that glowed with untapped power. 5 years ago, after he had awakened from his coma with his brother's Uchiha Shisus eyes, he had fallen into depression, only being able to focus on how his family was gone. At some point while he was wallowing in his angst, his brother's eyes had evolved into the Renegon. After being told how rare and valuable these eyes truly were by the QB, he had tried many ways to hide them, eventually just settling for having his sharing on at all times by feeding it chakra continue. Ali. For the first year, he basically had permanent chakra exhaustion, only being able to survive by falling unconscious as the QB pumped some of its chakra into his veins. Because of he had chakra reserves that would have made even Kisame, the tailless beast himself, drool in jealousy. Conversely, he had about as much chakra control as an old person did of their bowels. At the same time, he had no idea how to use his Renegon. He really had no use for activating it other than the strength, speed, and chakra boosts it gave him. And unless it was a life or death situation, it wasn't worth revealing he had it in the first place. From what the QB had told him, the Sage of Six Paths also had the Renegon. But since the QB, along with the other tailed beasts, only came into life as the Sage himself was dying, it had no idea what the Renegon's powers could be. Getting into the shower, he fed more power into his eyes as they changed from the sharing to his brother's Mangu kaleidoscope. Na and Sasuke had decided not to visit the Naka shrine until Sasuke had unlocked his Mangekyou. Even though he himself had only used it 1 or 2 times, Naruto felt the pride of having had such an amazing older brother well up again when he found out how Shiui unlocked Kototsukumi, distinguished heavenly gods. Kototsukumi was a technique that allowed its user to go into the target's mind and manipulate them by giving them false experiences. It was the ultimate hypnotic genjutsu, having been unlocked when Shiui had obtained a near-complete understanding of how the human mind worked. When Naruto used it, he would just be bumbling through the instructions Shiui had left for him in the eye and would probably never be able to use it to the absolute degree his brother had. Turning off the shower and drying himself off as he left the chakra drain from his Mangekyou until it reverted back to the normal sharing, Naruto went to his dresser and put on his orange jumpsuit. While orange was an awesome color, the way the jumpsuit Naruto was wearing had it made it look stupid, and he couldn't wait for tomorrow when he would be assigned a team and he could burn the damn thing. Over the last 5 years, Naruto and Sasuke had perfected their masks that they wore in public. Sasuke was the cold, broody Avenger with a stick up his who was the Rookie of the Year, and Naruto was the village idiot who was only able to get through the academy as the dead last because of his sharing. Other than a select few individuals that they both trusted. Together, the two had successfully pulled the wool over the eyes of the whole village. As he went into the kitchen and started breakfast, Na saw a 13-year-old Sasuke stumbled into the dining room looking like a zombie. Seeing Sasuke, Naruto, though about the way Shiui had unlocked his Mangekyou. About a year before his death, Shiui was stationed in an extremely sensitive location where he was eventually compromised. Shiui had then spent the next 3 days fighting constantly to get back home, constantly molding chakra into his sharing. When he had finally gotten back to Konoha, the snare amount of continuously molded chakra in his sharing had caused it to evolve to a Mangekyou. Sasuke was trying to do the same thing at the moment, but had only been able to hold his sharing for about a day in Ahab at best. So, think you'll need some of the QB's chakra to get through today? Na asked, referring to the seals he made that had the ability to purify the cup chakra and give it to other people to re-energize them. Over the last few years, Naruto and Sasuke had trained in private in the Uchiha compound, its presence always reminding him of the genjutsu they had on him about the truth of the Uchiha massacre. Na and Sasuke were both around mid-chunin in strength due to their younger bodies. But if they filled out, they would both easily be mid-jonin in strength. Na himself had started studying seals over the past 4 years and guarded his notes with righteous fury. No, I should be fine. The first year you hypnotized Iruka-sensei so he wouldn't be suspicious about our grades. And then in the second year, you took care of Mizuki. Mizuki had tried to take Naruto's eyes during his second year at the academy. But Naruto had chained him up and hypnotized him to spill his guts to the next person who asked him before Na dumped him off at the int department. Yep, from what I remember of our class scores, Naruto said as he set the table. He had just made a traditional Japanese breakfast. It looks like one of your fangirls is going to be the third person on our team. Haruno Sakura, I think her name was HN. Sasuke grunted as he began eating. Sasuke's fan club was infamously known throughout the whole village. When Naruto wasn't sure about how to act, he immediately went with the obnoxious and loud personality as soon as he saw a group of fangirls try to mob Sasuke. They often had to rely on Naruto's eyes mind of the Kagura to avoid the fangirls to get to class on time. Finishing breakfast and dumping the dishes in the sink, Naruto and Sasuke headed towards to Academy line break. Konoha Ninja Academy. Arriving at the classroom after dodging a mob of fangirls, Sasuke immediately entered the classroom and took what Naruto had taken to calling brooding pose number 1, which was leaning back in the chair with the arms on the armrests and fingers interlaced. Naruto, on the other hand, hid himself just outside the classroom so the dolby would be laid as usual. Hearing rumbling, Naruto shifted a little to see fangirls Yamanaka and Haruno Sakura running down the hall and trying to butt each other out of the way so they would get to the classroom first. Watching them, Naruto couldn't help but let out a little sigh at their future teammate. She was a completely and absolutely useless fangirl. While she had near-perfect marks in the classroom, her taijutsu and endurance scores were abysmal. Honestly, an encyclopedia would have been more useful than her. You could at least brain your enemy over the head with an encyclopedia. Honestly, almost all the kunoichi in this year's graduating class were massive jokes except for one. Hyuga Hinata, one of the few people in the village who knew Naruto and Sasuke's true capabilities. Average test scores above average scores in Shurikenjutsu. Undefeated in Taijutsu for 3 years. About a week into the first summer break, Hinata was what would later become a hobby of hers. Stalking when she had happened upon Naruto and Sasuke training. She was so enraptured by the skill they were both showing that she let her guard down and they had caught her. Sasuke had suggested wiping her memory, but Naruto had remembered her from the Kumo incident almost 9 years ago and asked her to keep what they were doing a secret and if she wanted to join them. During the first training session, her uncle Hashi would always cover for her and say she was training with him. Naruto had immediately noticed that the Hyuga gentle fist style seemed too rigid for her. After that, he and Sasuke had come up with a more flexible taijutsu style for her that incorporated the gentle fist, but also used the legs, feet, and elbows think Muay Thai as means of delivering crippling chakra strikes. Slowly but surely, Hinata had begun winning their pure taijutsu matches. When Hinata had asked them why they held back so much in the academy, Naruto had said that they were training to be ninja and secrecy was a ninja's first and best line of defense. After that, Hinata also began holding back just enough to win each taijutsu match in the academy, only to showing enough skill to get her father and the Hyuga clan elders off her back. Hearing the bell ring and Iruka begin to call roll, Naruto burst into the door. "Hey Iruka-sensei, sorry I'm late, but Sasuke Nightum forgot to set the alarm," Na said with a wide grin as he scratched the back of his head. "That's because I don't need an alarm clock," Dobi Sasuke remarked as his fangirls swooned at how cool he was. Used to Naruto's antics, Iruka just waved Naruto to go sit in his seat. As Na sat in his seat next to Hinataruka began to go through the roll again. Fu, did you really need to be so loud, Naruto-kun?" Hinata chuckled with a sly smile and a twinkle in her eyes. "Of course. How else would they believe me, Hinata-chan?" Na said with a grin, sharing and spinning in amusement. Over last 3 years, Hinata had gained much of her clan's respect due to being hailed as a taijutsu prodigy on the same level as Neji. As a result, she wasn't a stuttering wreck with no self-confidence. While she still wore her baggy sweater, she had also grown her hair out so that it was near the middle of her back. Even still, she had not confessed to Na about the crush she still harbored on the redhead. While she had given him plenty of hints, Na was, as Sasuke put it, more dense than the steel plating of Kiri's warships. As Iruka began his lecture about how if they passed, they would be true ninja Naruto, though about a more elegant solution to his problem with the Bunken clone. Naruto was unable to use any jutsu that he didn't reverse engineer. This was because of his chakra being so much more potent than a normal person's due to the cube in his Uzumaki bloodline that normal hand seals usually didn't work for him. He had to completely recreate the jutsu so that it would cooperate with his chakra rather than just exploding in his face. This was how he was able to use the Shunshin, body flicker, Kawarimi replacement, and henge transformation. For the bunch, he was just planning on filling the room with them. As Iruka passed out the writing portion of the graduation exam, Naruto almost absent-mindedly filled out half the page before he left the other half blank. An idea he copied from his shogi partner, Shikamaru. Shikamaru was the epitome of genius with an IQ of over 200. It's just too bad he was lazy as hell. But he was also the third person who, after Hinata, Sasuke and Naruto, trusted with the true capabilities. Rather than Hinata, who discovered them by accident, Shikamaru discovered it through pure brain power and observational skills. At first, it was small things like Naruto and Sasuke not being winded after endurance training. But as he began to pay more attention, he found more and more things. Like how Naruto always had his two implanted sharing active and still bounced around like a rabbit, while Sharingan Kakashi Jonin of the village with a single implanted sharing could only keep his active for maybe an hour before he collapsed from chakra exhaustion, or how Sasuke always got just under perfect scores for everything. Eventually, Shikamaru confronted him about it, and after Naruto and Sasuke explained it to him, he promised not to say anything as long as they came over for a game of shogi every now and then. 10 minutes later, Iruka collected the test papers and had the class follow him outside for the taijutsu test. The taijutsu tests were fairly uneventful, except for Hinata nearly breaking Ka's arm for hitting on her. She had made it very clear she had someone who her eye was on during the third year. Na, being Naruto, wished her good luck and said any guy would be lucky to be with her. Sasuke had fought Choji and Naruto had fought Shino. After the rest of the class was tested, they went back inside for the Enjutsu portion of the test. Yawning Naruto sat at his desk waiting for his turn to do the tests. Bored Na decided to talk to Sasuke. So, Duckbutt, how's your pink eye coming along? Translation. What long do you think you can hold your sharing in now? Almost there, girly boy. Translation. 2 days in this story. Naruto has his father's facial structure. Oi. Who are you calling girly? You hell, you even have your own bone and sparkle. You're not one to talk. Tem doby duck butt. Bashan. You're Bishan too. I know, but I don't have long hair like you. It was true. Naruto's hair, while spiky, reached down to just little below his neck in a small ponytail. Na was opening his mouth to scream at Sasuke when Uzumaki Na, his name, was called for the Enjutsu test. Settling for just glaring at him, Na made his way down the stairs over to Ruka. Okay, please preform a henge transformation Kerami and at least 3 bunch monotone turning into a copy of the Hokage. Na then switched himself with a log designated for the test before he released his hench. He then put his fingers in a ram seal and closed his eyes in concentration. Naruto, what are you doing? Preform the bunch, Iruka said, curious as to what his student was doing. Got it, Iruka-sensei. Just trying to use as little chakra as I can. Na said, eyes still closed. Iruka nodded, remembering a week ago when Na had broken the chakra measuring device due to overloading it with chakra. Taking a deep breath, Na opened his eyes. Bunchin no Jutsu. The class stared in stunned silence as every inch of the room was filled with Narutos. Okay, you can dispel them now, Naruto said with wide eyes, sighing as he dispelled his clones. Na grumbled, I don't understand why the bunch is on the test. It basically is a handicap for people with lots of chakra. Well, usually if they have too much chakra, they just make sure then 3 even then they don't have as much chakra as you do. Iruka said as he handed Naruto his headband. TCH whatever, Na said as he tied the headband around his forehead. Line break random street in Konoha. Walking back to their home in the Uchiha district, Naruto and Sasuke talked about what kind of sensei they would get. I don't know. Hu-chan says that we would probably get that Kakashi fellow due to him being the only person in the village who knows how to use the sharing. Naruto said with his hands behind his head. Why do you insist on calling me Q-chan? You do know us be you are genderless. Dunno why do you still call me Chibian even though I am decently tall for my height. To me you're all tiny. I just gave you that name specifically because I know it annoys you. I show you nothing but love. Why do you give me nothing but hate? I am giving you my love but because I'm a Beiju, it comes out as dry sarcasm. Sasuke just stared at his younger brother as a miniature raincloud formed over Naruto's head and began raining on him. Line break. Uchiha training grounds. Sasuke grunted as he deflected a punch with his forearm and kicked his attacker back. Said attacker was a ninja wearing a neon orange jumpsuit. Back flipping and landing on his feet. Na created 3 small chakra shuriken and threw them at Sasuke, who took out a kunai and deflected them. Focusing his chakra into a bigger flat-sided shuriken like the kind Obito when he attacked Kakashi, Naruto threw it at Sasuke. Ducking underneath the flying wheel of death, Sasuke charged at Naruto, who formed another handheld chakra shuriken and held it in his right hand to block a slash from Sasuke. Breaking off the deadlock with a leg sweep, Sasuke jumped over and away from created another shuriken in his left hand and threw them both at Sasuke. Substituting with a log that was triced, Sasuke flashed through hands, signs ending on tiger. Kaden Goku, Sasuke shouted, breathing out a stream of fire at Naruto. Using his chakra as a marker instead of a brush, Naruto quickly drew a seal in the air. Said seal glowed before swallowing all of the fire and disappearing. But some of the fire had singed Naruto's cloths, creating a chain out of chakra. Naruto sung it at Sasuke, who flipped over it, throwing kunai that Naruto deflected with a snap of his chain, forming 3 hand seals, then ended on half T. Sasuke began to breathe a stream of fire that compressed itself into a small ball in his hand. Oh, is he really going to use that here? Thought with wide eyes as he began creating a barrier with his chains. Kaden Zukoku, said Sasuke as he finished forming the small fireball before throwing at Na. When the fireball hit Naruto's barrier, it erupted into a great firestorm that completely decimated the training ground. When the smoke cleared, burned and smoking, Naruto was lying in the center of the crater formed by the technique. You're a jackass, Na said as his burned skin began to steam and heal. You're the one who said, after this spar, I want this disgrace to orange completely unrecognizable. Sasuke said with a smirk as he walked over to the brunt redhead. Said jumpsuit was now destroyed to the point where it looked like a pair of shorts with one leg longer than the other. But still, damn, how are you already so good with Kaden? I thought your main element was lightning. It is lightning. I only finished Zuku last night and it wasn't anywhere near the full effect. Sasuke said, offering Naruto a hand. Not near the full effect. What's the full effect? Na asked, taking the hand. I wouldn't have to throw it, and I wouldn't have had to charge it. Phew, how far are you on, Raiden? Gian. At this, Sasuke scowled. I still can't manipulate the direction it goes or move while I'm doing it. May you'll get there, Na said, deactivating his sharing to reveal his Rinnegan. As Sasuke helped Naruto hobble back to their house, he asked something he had been meaning to ask for a while. So, what do those Rinnegan let you do anyway? To be honest, I have no idea. Right now, I only know it gives me affinities to all 5 of the nature transformations. Maybe there will be something on it inside the Naka shrine. Give me another month or 2 and I'll have the Mangekyou. The hard part is getting used to the constant drain of chakra in your daily life. Not all of us are chakra monsters like you. Shooting Sasuke a dirty look, Naruto grumbled. If you don't remember, I could barely stay awake for the first year I had my sharing gun on constantly, let alone move for the first month. Not to mention, it drains like 1/10 of the chakra from an Uchiha as it does for a non-Uchiha. I don't see how that's defending you against being a chakra monster. Line break. The next day, tying his hair back into its usual rough ponytail, Naruto looked at himself in the mirror. After disposing of the rest of his bulky orange jumpsuits, he had put on a set of cloths he had spent the last year inscribing seals on. While it might have just looked like a standard Chunin uniform, minus the vest, dark blue pants with white bandages around ankles, and a dark blue shirt with sleeve that ended mid-forearm and 2 red Uzumaki clan symbols on the shoulders. It was actually covered in seals. Seals that increased its durability. Seals that caused it to repair itself. Weight seals for training. And finally, a seal that caused the cloths to get bigger as he grew. The dark blue color was so the seals would blend in more when he ran chakra through the durability seal, and it appeared all over the shirt and pants. Sure, it was plain, but it was functional. However, not wanting to part with his favorite color completely, Naruto finished his outfit with a dark orange scarf wrapped around his neck with a single weight seal inscribed into the stitching. Sasuke's odd hobby of knitting had been useful after all. Tying his headband around his arm, Naruto set off for his last day at the academy. Line break. The academy. The apocalypse was near. The end was coming. And this was the sign from Kami that it was the end. As the whole class minus 3 people continued to stare, said red-headed sign steadfastly ignored him as he continued reading his book on sealing. Anyo Naruto-kun, Hinata hesitantly said, seeing everyone staring at them. Yes, Hinata-chan. Na said, turning with a smile that seemed to sparkle, blushing slightly as she thought Na looked really good in his new cloths. Hinata continued, everyone is staring. Perhaps you should have waited until tomorrow to reveal yourself. Hen maybe, but I wanted to make a good first impression to whoever my John and Sensei is. Hinata sighed. That is Naruto-kun. When he wanted to be, he is quiet. By the way, your cheeks are kind of flushed. Are you okay? Na asked with genuine concern on his face. Said flush was instantly replaced with a tick mark. Dense. Yes, Naruto-kun. Hinata said with a sickly sweet smile as she radiated an aura that promised immense pain. I am very okay. Are you okay? Ah hey ya, I'm fine. Naruto said as he tried to hide behind his book. As Iruka walked into the classroom, the scene he saw was one where the entire graduating class was staring at Naruto as if he was an alien. While Hinata glared at the boy, Naruto must have had one of Hinata's hints that she liked him fly over his head again. Iruka amused. Clearing his throat, he gave his usual, I'm proud that you are all finally ninja and I hope you have a long and successful career speech before he began to read out the people in each team. Team 1. Several moments later, Team 7, Uchiha Sasuke. Haruno Sakura insert obligatory fangirl screech. Ow. And Naruto, your sensei will be Hitaki Kakashi. Na and Sasuke glanced at each other to share a smirk. Team 8, Inuzuka, Kiba, Hyuga, Hinata, and Aburame Shino. Your John and Sensei will be Yui Karana. Team 9 is still in circulation. Team 10, Yaman, Nakao, Akamaki, Choji, and Narushikamaru. Your John and Sensei will be Surbi Asuma. That's all. Everyone be back here in 1 hour for your John and Sensei to pick you up. As everyone got up to leave, Ka approached Hinata before he was intercepted by Na. Listen here, dog breath. I don't have a problem with you personally, but what I do have a problem with is you hitting on my friend. When there is clearly someone else she likes and has rejected you multiple times. Now, keep it in your pants or else I'll tell your sister, Na said, glaring at the Inuzuka boy, tossing a wave and a wink over his shoulder at Hinata. Na then left to catch up with Sasuke. Wow, he is really dense, isn't he? Ka said as though he hadn't just gotten chewed out by the dead last. Letting out a sigh, Hinata let her shoulders droop. Yes he is. But I choose him and I'll make him understand even if I have to smack him over the head with it. I'll see you later, Ka. Later, Hinata, Ka said as he waved at Hinata's back. Feeling someone's stare, Ka looked up to see Shino staring at him with one eyebrow raised. We were trying to make Na jealous. Obviously, didn't work. And personally, I'm fine with being just friends. Hinata scares me to be honest and I have enough women in my life who have me whipped. Nodding in understanding, Shino walked out the door without speaking a word. Line break. Catching up with Sasuke, Naruto asked, so, what do you want to do for the hour before we meet our sensei? I'm not really hungry. I'm not hungry either. I guess we could go around and find out more about the guy. Alright, I'll go ask Orochi. You go ask around the village. Want to meet in front of the academy in like 30 minutes. Naruto asked, faintly remembering his ambush from his childhood. Sure, Sasuke replied before both ninjas disappeared in shins. Line break. Hokage Tower. Yo Arrow Jiggy. How's it going? Surbi Heen the Sandame. Hokage let a smile come to his face as he turned to the window to see a grinning Na. So finally decided to stop hiding. Saratobi said with a knowing smile. How did you know? Na asked, looking surprised. My boy, I may be old, but I am the Hokage. Now, what did you come here for? I must get back to this infernal paperwork. Saratobi replied, glaring daggers at the pile of paperwork on his desk. Well, I found out my John and Sensei is going to be Kakashi Nissan. Can you tell me anything about him? Well, I suppose I could tell you a few things. Line break in front of the academy. So, what did you find out about our sensei? That he's a huge pervert and is always late and is super lazy and values teamwork above all else and is the only person left in the village with a sharing. Sasuke finished darkly. Those fools in the council probably want him to teach you how to use the Sharingan, even though we already know most of the ins and outs of it. Na said no small amount of venom when he said the word council. Sighing, Sasuke said, well, at least he will be able to teach us some good jutsu. I hear that he's rumored to have copied over 1,000 of them. Yeah, but we would first have to pass his test. Erogi told me that Kakashi Nissan has never passed a team in his time as a Jonin. Apparently, there is another test after the graduation exam and Kakashi Nissan is super hard. Nissan, you remember the Kumo incident where Hinata and I were almost kidnapped? Akin he was the one who rescued us from the Kumo Nin HCHN. So what do we do? Let's just wait and see what the test is. Since he values teamwork so much, it will probably play some role in the test he uses. So according to what people told me, Kakashi Nissan is 3 hours late to just about everything. What are we going to do until then? Line break. Humming a tune to himself, Kakashi strolled along the halls of the academy. It was about 3 hours since he was supposed to pick a new team up, the one he had been failing teams the last couple years for, so he was just about on time. However, upon entering the classroom, he was surprised to find only one confused pink-haired genin. Where are your teammates? The silver-haired man asked his singular genin. I don't know, sir. After they left for the lunch break, they never came back. Feeling a finger taping his shoulder, Kakashi turned around and looked down to see his two wayward genin. Excuse me, mister, would you happen to know where our Jonin sensei is? His name is Hitaki Kakashi and is apparently a massive pervert. So, we were at the hot springs. Looking for him. TTBO. The red-haired one said with a twinkle in his eye that told him that they knew where he was the whole T. Me. The smirk the other one had didn't help either. Well, Pinky twitch duck ass twitch twitch and Chibian. Twitch 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 meet me on the roof. Kakashi said before disappearing in a shunt. Looking at each other, Naruto and Sasuke shrugged before forming the ram hand seal and also vanishing. Line break the roof. You two know the Shunshin? Kakashi asked with his visible eyebrow raised. Yeah, we know a lot of stuff, Dabo. We just don't go around flaunting it around like samurai. Na exclaimed with a grin. Deception is a ninja's greatest tool after all. Sasuke grunted. It's good to see you again, Kakashi. Nissan, Naruto said with a smaller smile. So, you still remember me? Kakashi replied with an eye smile. Yeah, I never really thanked you for saving me and Hinata-chan, so thanks, Naruto said sheepishly, scratching his cheek. Of course, I couldn't let my Odo get kidnapped, could I? On another note, do you know how long until your teammate gets here? She's coming up the stairs now. Almost on cue, a head of pink hair appeared from the stairs. Okay, go sit down on the bench and introduce yourselves. Well, what do you want us to say, sensei? Sakura asked. Well, your name, your likes, dislikes, hobbies, goals, and dreams. Well, can you go first so we can know how to do it? Okay, my name is Hitaki Kakashi. I like some things, dislike other things. I have no hobbies or goals really. I don't think you're all age appropriate to know my dreams. The three Genin's sweat dropped. He just told us his name. Well, you're next, Pinky. Kakashi drawled in a bored voice and he pointed at Sakura. My name is Haruno Sakura. I like looks at Sasuke and giggles. My hobbies are looks at Sasuke and giggles and my dream is looks at Sasuke and giggles. I see. Any dislikes? Kakashi said with a sweat drop. A fangirl. No, not really, Sakura said with a happy look on her face. Okay, duck. Scowling Sasuke said. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. I like training with my brother, tomatoes, and hawks. I dislike traitors and liars. My goals and dreams are the same. To revive the Uchiha clan and to confront my brother. Odd. The file on him said he was an antisocial avenger with anger issues. And finally, Uchi tomato, __, tick mark forming on his head. Na said, my name is Uchiha Yuna. I like seals training with my brother and foxes. My dislikes are arrogant, __, traitors, liars, and people who can't tell a kanai from a scroll. My goal is to revive the Uzumaki clan and to confront my brother. My dream is to create a world of peace, a world where people won't have to go through the pain of losing their family. Okay, whoever did the files on Naruto and Sasuke need to be fired. Their personalities are completely off. Okay, so now we know each other. We will make a good team if you can pass the survival test. That is observing their reactions, Kakashi noted that while Sakura was surprised, Naruto and Sasuke looked like something they suspected was just confirmed. How interesting. A survival test. But sensei, we already passed the graduation exam, didn't we? Sakura said confused. That was just a test to weed out the absolutely hopeless cases, but there's another test to see who truly has the medal to be a ninja. Isn't there, sensei? Na asked with his sharing eyes slowly spinning. Kakashi noted that while his sharing was almost unnoticeable when Naruto was being cheerful and exuberant when he got serious, it had a real intimidation factor. That's right. However, this test only has a 66% fail rate. Only 1 out of every 3 teams pass. The test will be at 5 a.m. at Training Ground 7. I suggest you don't eat breakfast. You'll just throw it up. And on that ominous note, Kakashi shunned away. Sakura, don't go there at 5 a.m. Wait until 7:30 a.m. and make sure to eat a hearty breakfast. Once we are all there, we will devise a plan to take down Kakashi-sensei. Sasuke said, surprised at being addressed so suddenly. She could only nod as Naruto and Sasuke shunched away. Idlashi noted that she would need to learn that at some point. Line break. So what do you think the test will be? It will probably be the bell test. Someone Kusha knew was Kakashi's sensei and had given him the same one. I don't know what that is, nor do I want to know. Do you think I should tell him about my Renegan? Naruto was on the way to the Na compound for his weekly game of shogi with Shikamaru. The Na guard, seeing who he was, opened the gate and let him in without any trouble. Perhaps Kakashi was very close with your parents. You could trust him. Seeing Shikamaru in the usual spot with the board already set, Na went over and sat down to begin the game. So, how's your Jonin sensei? Na asked. He's troublesome. Sounds like he's going to give us some test. Shikamaru said with a lazy drawl as always. Hey, mine too. You better pass, otherwise Yoshino-san will ream you out. By the way, when are you going to tell me about my father? I think I'm old enough to know at this point. Don't remind me. I feel you don't have that final level of maturity just yet. I'll tell you what. How about I tell you when you get your first kill as a shinobi? To Naruto's credit, he managed to keep his reaction completely on the inside. What? Why? Because while the academy may show you all these fancy little tricks, you're not a true shinobi until you take someone's life. At that moment, as you watch the life drain from their eyes, is the point where you change from a civilian with an understanding of his body's energies to a shino. When you do, take whatever poor fool's life that is unfortunate enough to be your first kill. Look them in the eye. Burn that pain, that agony, that hopelessness into your soul and make sure you never forget it. Because they will never forget you. And perhaps if you can remember the emotions on the face of your first murder to the point where it's not just another kill, you may be able to stay human just yet. You won, Shikamaru said with wide eyes. While it happened, it was once every blue moon. So what's on your mind? Shikamaru asked. While Naruto did win sometimes, it was usually because he was distracted by something else and going on autopilot. It's just what we will have to do when we eventually become shinobi. Na said, spiky hair drooping. So you're worried about your first kill, huh? Well, let me put it the way my pops put it for me. Do not look away from death. It's a natural part of life. And when you have your first kill, make sure to look them directly in the eye. Feel all the emotions that the person you're killing feels. That way, you can at least stay human. Because if you can ever kill another human being without feeling anything, then I don't want to know you anymore. I see, Na said with an odd look in his eye. Well, I'll see you next week, Shikika. If both our teams pass, we should get together and train sometime. All right, later. Line break. Uchiha Clan Training Grounds. Should we really be training before our big test? Naruto asked as he went through some katas with a claymore. It's fine. I can heal myself with medical enjutsu and you have the Q. B. Sasuke said, firing off a Raiden Gyan, but still Naruto grunted as his muscle burned from the strain. Kakashi-Nisan is probably the strongest jonin in the village right now. We should make sure we go in at 100%. No, I don't think they would let a jonin, let alone the strongest jon in the village, fight genin at full power. Whatever, I'm just about done. So, I'll head back early. I'll see you later, Na said as he finished his katas and dispelled his chakra blade. Hearing the customary HN, Na went home to get to bed and set his alarm clock for 7:15 line break. The next morning, as Na got up and made his way to the training ground after a quick breakfast, he thought about telling Kakashi about the Renegan. The only other person who knew about it was Sasuke. No one other than the QB and Sasuke knew about it, and he had gone to great lengths to keep it that way. Arriving at training ground 7, Naruto saw Sasuke and Sakura sitting on the bridge discussing something. Focusing his mind's eye outward, Naruto tried to find Kakashi. Perhaps he was already testing them. However, to Naruto's surprise, he found Kakashi standing somewhere miles away. Shaking his head to clear the thoughts of the odd habits his sensei had, Na made his way to his teammates after they ed him over. So, what do you think the test will be, Naruto? Sakura asked. Probably something to do with teamwork. Keep that in mind when Kakashi-sensei tells us what the test is. Na said. How do you know it will be something about teamwork? Sasuke asked. Well, Konoha is known for how well its shinobi work together, and like I told you before, teamwork is one of the things Kakashi-sensei values. Na said, scratching his cheek with one finger. During the test, we should make sure to stick together then. Sasuke said, not quiet. Oroijigi told me that Kakashi hadn't passed a team yet, so he probably will try to trick us in some way. Na pointed out. Oh, and who is this erogi? A voice asked from behind them. All three genin jumped as they turned around to see their sensei. Hello to you, too, my potential kawaii genin. Kakashi said with an eye smile. When did you get here, Kakashi-sensei? Sasuke asked, having activated his Sharingan on reflex. Just now. We can begin the test now, Kakashi said as he took out 2 box lunches and a clock before putting them on a training log. You have until midday to get these bells, Kakashi said, holding up 2 silver bells that he attached to his waist. Anyone who doesn't get a bell will be sent back to the academy and tied to the stumps while they watch the others eat. Raising an eyebrow when he didn't hear any of their stomachs growl, he asked, did you all eat breakfast even? Though I told you not to. Not quiet, Kakashi-sensei, you suggested we not eat breakfast. You didn't actually tell us not to. Na pointed out. HIC. Make sure you come at me with the intent to kill, otherwise you'll never get a bell. But sensei, wouldn't you get hurt? Sakura asked. No, if he could be beat by a team of Jan, he wouldn't be a jonin. Sasuke smirked, sharing and spinning. Well, ready start, Kakashi said as he took out his book and the 3 children disappeared. Line break. Well, at least they're decently hidden, Kakashi mused as he read his book. Snapping his book shut, he swung his head back before it could be cut off by a giant blue shuriken that passed over him. I can't say I've ever seen that before. Dropping his weighted scarf on the floor with a loud bang, Naruto focused his chakra into his arm. Then you probably haven't seen this either, Na said as his chakra formed into chains coming out of his arm before he swung them at Kakashi, who danced thrug. Them, dispersing his chakra chains, Na formed a claymore before charging at Kakashi. As he began dodging Naruto's swings, Kakashi thought to himself, even Kasha Nissan didn't have this level of control over her bloodline. Interesting, seeing that close combat was getting him nowhere. Na jumped back and threw his claymore at Kakashi, who casually stepped it. You're good, Na said, getting into another ready stance. Well, if I wasn't, I wouldn't be a jonin. You didn't let me finish. You're good, Naruto smirked as he formed a half-ram seal. Kaden Goku, Kakashi heard from his side and tried to dodge, but found he couldn't move due to a glowing seal on the side of his arm. But you're not that good. Damn, Hokage-sama told me they were better than they let on. But I didn't expect Naruto to already know seals, Kakashi said as a massive fireball impacted the area where he was standing. Keep your guard up, Na, you know that wasn't enough to kill an A-ranked shinobi. Sasuke said as he exited the foliage and stood back to back with Na. I know, I saw him molding some chakra before the fireball hit, but I couldn't figure out what jutsu he used. Naruto said, looking around with his sharing. Not above us, not east or south, not north or west, then below. Both boys shouted as they jumped away just as 2 hands emerged from the ground. You both have your sharing guns active. But I don't, Kakashi said slowly as he raised his headband to reveal his closed sharing eye. Let's even the score a bit. When Kakashi opened his sharing eye, he was damn near blinded by the redhead to his right. The kid had chakra coming off him in waves, saturating the air around him. When Kakashi had heard Naruto had gotten 2 transplanted sharing, Kakashi had thought the regenerative powers of the QB had caused it to take less chakra from Na than it did for him normally. Kakashi was wrong. For almost 4 years, Naruto had the constant drain from 2 implanted sharing, and because of that, it increased Naruto's reserves to the point where it had felt like someone had just shined the world's brightest light into his eye. Okay, never mind, Kakashi said with a sweat drop, lowering his headband over his eye again. Now they had the advantage, Kakashi mused. I can't use my sharing without being blinded, and I can feel Sasuke and Sakura laying genjutsu on me. At this rate, I'm not going to last. I really need to get myself back in shape. Taken down by Genin, how humiliating. Trying to think of a plan, Kakashi was taken by surprise when the ground around him erupted and chains shot out, making a barrier around him. Looking to his right, he saw chains coming from behind Naruto's back just outside the barrier and going into the ground. Looking to his left, he saw Sasuke go through 3 hand seals ending on tiger and breathing a stream of fire into a small fireball in his hand. Oh, is that Kaden, Zukoku, and Kakashi's world exploded in flames. Line break. As Kakashi regained consciousness, he felt that he was tied up and that someone was healing the worst of the burns he had. Remembering what had possibly led to this situation, he mentally groaned. Even though they did display teamwork, the 3 of them weren't supposed to beat me. I'm never going to hear the end of this if it gets out. So, how long until Sensei is healed? A voice Kakashi identified as Sakura is asked. He should be waking up soon. You were right, Naruto. He does rely on his sharing way too much. He didn't even notice the genjutsu Sakura was putting on him until you broke it when you created the barrier. I don't really deserve any credit. Sasuke, you and Naruto-san did all the work. Even the genjutsu I used was Naruto's idea. Don't worry about it, Sakura-san. I'm sure that since we beat him, he'll pass us even if we didn't get the bells. Groaning, Kakashi decided to make himself known. Opening his original eye. What happened to the bells? Chuckling sheepishly as he scratched his cheek, Naruto held up 2 pieces of charcoal. So, do we pass? Sasuke asked with a raised eyebrow. Sighing, Kakashi nodded. Yeah, the test was meant to get you to show teamwork, and you did. Granted, you weren't supposed to beat me. On a side note, how do you deal with the red-headed walking searchlight over there? Kakashi asked, nodding towards Na. Ignoring Naruto's indignant shout, Sasuke smirked and shrugged. I had 5 years to get used to it, but you do need to do something about situations where the enemy can do something to your sharing. That was pathetic to be honest. Yeah, I get it. Kakashi sighed again, then rested his head as he waited for Sasuke to finish healing him. So guys, what do you think about this Naruto story? Tell me your opinion in the comments. And if you want more Naruto what if stories, make sure to subscribe to Universe of Naruto. Thanks for watching.